300 years ago, the celestial was manifested, and countless secret realms and dungeons descended upon the earth. It was then followed by the appearance of countless powerful monsters that pushed humanity to the verge of extinction. But after the initial crisis, the Awakened appeared. The Awakened, who possessed special powers, defeated the monsters and saved the world from destruction. In order to resist the monsters and continue to explore the secret realms for wealth and materials, nations began to cultivate these Awakened with all their effort, to the point that anyone who is at the age of 18 is now eligible for an awakening. The classes of the Awakened are generally divided into 3 categories: combat, support, and creation. The combat class is the most practical and the most desired, but the creation is the least desired. While Lee celebrates his magic swordsman class, Hao cries profusely because of his creation class. After successfully awakening, the quality of a class is divided into 4 ranks: common, rare, secret, and divine. Suddenly, the students talk about the top student Jiang Chen and fawn over his phenomenal class awakening. By the way, the divine rank talents are the rarest and can hardly be seen once in a century. While the students watch Jiang in confusion, they wonder if he's awakening a divine rank, which their Jiang city hasn't seen for centuries. It's said that whenever a divine rank class is awakened, a phenomenon that shakes heaven and earth occurs. After Jiang Chen's awakening is completed, the principal comes to celebrate the boy, who is a pillar of their school. The principal comments that he knew he'd awakened a combat class but didn't expect it to be a divine rank. Confused, Jiang interjects that he didn't awaken a combat class but a creation class, divine rank spiritual master. His talent can accelerate the growth of plants and small creatures. Surprised, the principal screams that this is horrible because even a divine rank creation class is useless since it has no combat usefulness. The teacher standing next to the principal assures him that Jiang will be safe even if he can't fight, because spiritual masters are popular in the research field, especially a divine rank one. The man informs Jiang that he can no longer give him a recommendation letter, but he might be able to get one from a teacher in the research field. Through it all, Jiang remains calm and tells the teacher he'll consider it. Soon after, he decides to take his leave, while some of the other students mock Jiang, while some just remain surprised. Several people make fun of Jiang because his stellar grades won't matter anymore because of his class. While Jiang walks away, he smirks as he thinks about how they were all praising him just a moment ago, and he worries about such a world where only strength matters. Jiang, on the other hand, wonders what's wrong with a creation class, and he summons his system, which informs him that his divine rank spiritual master has met the condition to open the insect natural calamity system that allows him to summon the mother insect. In Jiang's eyes, this class matches his system quite well. The true story is that Jiang Chen had died and got reincarnated into this world of the Awakened. Reborn as an orphan, he tried his hardest to survive until he turned 18. He relied on himself alone to survive until he awakened this system a month ago. From the system, he learned that the insect race is an extremely powerful race that inflicted heavy damage on mankind during the Dark Era, and 9 out of 12 of the kings of the human race were sacrificed to seal away the last natural calamity rank insect that appeared. In this world, strength is everything, and Jiang decides to use this insect power to his advantage. After he accepts the system's prompt, he's transported to his subconscious, where he sees his talent in the form of a tree. The specific skills he has are listed out to him, and Jiang realizes that all the talents seem to have no combat value at first sight, but can be used for that through his insect system. After a successful analysis, he opts to summon the mother insect, and the system does just that. Immediately, Jiang senses a powerful aura, and the system notifies him that he has summoned the natural calamity rank mother insect, 9 Miasma Wing. The system explains that this beast caused great catastrophe during the Third Era and enjoins him to complete the devouring and breeding of the next generation of insects to unlock abilities. In front of the monster insect, Jiang is as small as a fly, but the mother insect, who refers to herself as Little Nine, tells Jiang that she likes her master, referring to him. Little Nine states that she's hungry and wants to eat evil monsters. Meanwhile, the system notifies Jiang that the first upgrade won't cost any sacrifice, so he takes it. It seems the mother insect requires devouring to upgrade, which may be difficult. When he activates the first upgrade, she transforms into a human-like woman and jumps on him, excitedly declaring that she has evolved. Jiang is surprised that she evolved into a human form and pats her head as she declares that she wants to devour flesh and blood. The talent of the spiritual master class can accelerate the mother insect's devouring growth, and the exponential growth of the mother insect can speed up his upgrade and increase all his attributes by 20%. His spiritual master class seems to be the perfect fit for this system. It seems that as long as Jiang can kill monsters and devour them fast enough, he'll have an army of insects soon. However, he can't show this ability to others because of the catastrophe this monster once caused, so it doesn't lead to his end. However, he plans to work his way up until he gets so strong that he doesn't need to hide himself from the world. Suddenly, they both notice a disturbance, and Little Nine excitedly informs Jiang that she detects a threat. Suddenly, Jiang jerks back to the normal world, and a man asks him if the class awakening phenomenon that could be seen around the whole city just now was prompted by him. Jiang realizes this person is a master-level expert and wonders why he's looking for him. The students around notice this new man has such a strong aura, and they wonder why he's here for Jiang. Meanwhile, Jiang finds it strange that this man has been exerting his aura on him for a while, yet remaining silent. It seems as though the man is testing him, and Little Nine mentions that this guy poses a threat to her master, and seems quite tempting as well, so she wants to devour him. Shocked, Jiang realizes that he's not in a good situation, and the system notifies him that the mother insect is about to begin devouring the target. Suddenly, a strong power emanates from Jiang's body that affects the other students, and Jiang realizes that he needs to find some monsters for Little Nine to devour because her low devouring value is making her aggressive. When the man smiles, Jiang confirms that the man was testing his strength but has unintentionally triggered the mother insect. Fortunately for Jiang, he's able to suppress the mother insect, but the system advises him to begin increasing his devouring value. Soon after, the man congratulates him for being able to withstand his pressure and counterattack after just awakening. He expresses to Jiang that he believes his future is limitless, and Jiang thanks him but asks who he is. The man introduces himself as Ji Gong, the leader of the Night Watch. He doesn't beat around the bush and immediately asks Jiang if he would like to join the Night Watch, which leaves our boy surprised. The Night Watch is an organization specifically tasked by Great Xia to resist demons and beast tides. Whenever there's a beast tide or new secret realm, the Night Watch is the first to investigate, and because of always fighting on the front line, the group's mortality rate is quite high. Although most people avoid it, Jiang is different, especially because the mother insect needs to devour the flesh and blood of monsters to accumulate devouring value and breed offspring. Once her devouring value is full, the mother insect will start to reproduce, and Jiang considers using the wilderness for that so as not to cause much of a commotion. He considers that it would be much easier to handle all this if he joins the Night Watch. Ji immediately tells Jiang to forget all the rumors he's heard about the Night Watch because they're outdated, but Jiang immediately accepts his offer before he can finish, claiming that it'll help reforge the glory of the Night Watch. The quick acceptance stuns Ji and he asks Jiang if he's sure about this. Jiang, however, clarifies that he's certain, but he has to go attend to something, while Little Nine protests about being hungry. Jiang leaves Ji still surprised and promises to report to the Night Watch headquarters in 3 days' time. As Jiang walks away, Ji remembers that he forgot to ask what class or profession he awakened, because he had expected this to be more complicated. Suddenly, the 8th elder from the martial arts academy jumps down from the air, with some other guy behind him, demanding to know where the guy with the divine rank creation class is. When Ji hears that, he wonders what they mean by creation class, so the men ask him if he plans to let the boy get killed by joining his Night Watch team. Meanwhile, Jiang goes to meet some of his family members and explains that he was the one who just caused the phenomenon in the city. His uncle, named Wang, assures him that companies that cultivate spiritual plants need people in the creation category even if he can't fight, and assures him that his parents would have been proud if they were still alive. Jiang thanks them all for their support over the years and assures them he won't forget. Shortly after, Wang informs him that they were just about to go to a beginner-level secret realm to get some equipment, so he invites him to join them so he can level up. When Jiang agrees, the system notifies him that he has completed his team formation. Sometime later, they enter the C-rank secret realm known as the Temple of the Undead. The secret realm guarantees a 100% drop of items and equipment, and voluntarily exiting a secret realm midway before completion is equivalent to forfeiting experience points and equipment. Once inside, Wang wonders why the secret realm system would match them with a dungeon of such a rank, and Jiang realizes it's not an easy secret realm to deal with. One lady on the team, Xiaoxi, figures that the system must have moved them to a higher secret realm because Jiang is a divine rank, but Wang protests that Jiang is of the creation category. The second lady proposes they turn back, but Wang says there's no need because they may be lucky this time to get some good equipment since they don't experience such realms regularly. When they begin to face monsters, Wang tells Xiao to stand back a bit because these undead soldiers are stronger than the average C-rank monsters he faces, while they advance into the dungeon's core. As Wang attacks one of the monsters, he asks Xiaoxi to enhance his talent, and she does just that. With both of their efforts, Wang slices the monster into bits. Meanwhile, Jiang realizes the team always fights such monsters every day just to survive, and that must be why they always come back with wounds. He considers how Xiaoxi has always supported him, but had apparently become an adventurer, because she had to cure her brother's eyes. He promises himself to grow stronger quickly to make enough money to thank them properly. Suddenly, Little Nine explains that there are so many monsters here and she wants to devour them. When Jiang hears that, he decides to try out Little Nine's abilities first. Using the level 1 poison barrier, he tells her to have fun with the monsters and releases her, which causes her to give thanks to him. When he releases her, her poison touches the corpses and corrodes them on contact, which is pretty powerful. However, the level of the monsters is too low, which doesn't allow for much growth, which means they need to devour more. Meanwhile, the others have already advanced into the depths of the dungeon in a short time through their teamwork. To avoid causing injuries to the others, since he doesn't know how to control the poison well, Jiang decides to follow behind and deal with the corpses. While devouring, Little Nine declares that she senses something, and a few level 10 shadow lurkers suddenly appear. They're lurking in the shadows to hunt down weaker targets. The monsters are in level 10, and Jiang is just a level 1, but his attributes are much greater than that of the monsters. Immediately, he orders Little Nine to transform into poisonous mist and follow him, then walks towards the shadow lurkers, ready for a fight. With the poisonous mist in his hands, he rushes towards the monsters and slips past them, but manages to touch them with the poisonous mist. Surprised, the monsters turn back to see their hands being eaten up until they're all reduced to purple dust by the power of the mist. After consuming them, the system awards Jiang with special prizes and more devouring value because their level is higher. Suddenly, Little Nine notifies Jiang that more blood food has appeared. When Jiang turns back, he sees many more shadow lurkers behind him, and he suddenly becomes worried about the rest of the team due to the alarming number of monsters. He asks Little Nine if she can handle them, so she asks him to leave them to her. Meanwhile, Xiaoxi laments because Uncle Wang got hurt, but he assures her that the injury is nothing since he has a combat class. The more monsters they fight, the more appear, and when things get worse, Wang asks Xiaoxi to get Jiang and get out of here. While he's speaking, one of the shadow lurkers jumps at him, but when he turns back, it's practically too late and a very bad situation. Suddenly, Jiang stretches forth his hands and consumes the monster mid-air with the poisonous mist. He quickly asks Uncle Wang if he's alright, but Wang remains speechless because Jiang is able to use a combat class power. Our boy doesn't answer and plans to use his other skill known as Poison Miasma. Before he uses it, he asks Sister Xiaoxi and Xiaoli to take Uncle Wang out of here. However, Wang refuses to leave him there even though he is divine rank, and so does Xiaoxi. Regardless, Jiang assures them to leave it to him. Soon after, the secret realm boss is summoned into the realm. While Wang still protests, Xiaoxi proposes they have faith in Jiang, so he eventually concedes and throws his sword to Jiang as support. Jiang grabs the sword and plans to use it to extend the range of the poison mist, so he quickly runs through the midst of the shadow lurkers and strikes them with the sword to burn them up with his mist. After all, our boy is the best in swordsmanship in his entire school. While he's cutting them up, a strange figure jumps down towards him, so he leaps out of the way to avoid the ground-shattering attack. The monster appears to be the boss of the secret realm. Immediately, the boss rushes towards him to land an attack with his sword, but Jiang quickly blocks with the sword Uncle Wang gave him. Unfortunately, Uncle Wang's sword shatters under the weight of the monster's sword and pushes our boy several feet backward. This dungeon boss is stronger than he had imagined, but it's worse that he promised to return to his uncle. This monster is a level 15 undead monarch, and it soon moves in a flash and gets behind Jiang to land a fatal attack. Immediately, Jiang calls upon Little Nine and she catches his sword with her hand. Immediately, she asks her master if she can annihilate it, and Jiang agrees. She immediately crushes the monster's sword in her palms and releases an aura so deadly that the monster becomes the hunted. Trying to fight for himself, the undead monarch rushes towards Little Nine with his fist, but Little Nine doesn't look like she's playing around. Before he reaches her, she sends a swarm of her poison towards him, and it eats him up like a cankerworm until all that's left of the monster is its head. Jiang didn't expect Little Nine to deal with the boss so easily, and a crystal soon appears in the dungeon. The crystal seems to be condensing the energy around it until it turns into a level 20 undead tyrant. Since it condensed into a new monster, Jiang realizes that the crystal must be the main body, so he asks Little Nine to destroy the energy crystal in its body. The undead tyrant immediately tries to release massive energy from its mouth, but Little Nine quickly dodges the large object it's swinging around and jumps above him to attack. She shoots out several crystal-like poisons from her body towards it, but the huge monster dodges them all. Meanwhile, Jiang is surprised by the monster's agility despite its huge body, so he considers making use of the plants around him. The monster is quite fast with powerful attacks, and it's like a charging bull that has gone out of control, and Jiang thinks that's a weakness. While Little Nine chases the monster around, Jiang realizes there are many roots hidden beneath the floor, and he just needs to use his talent the moment the monster comes close. When the time is right, Jiang activates his growth acceleration skill and causes the vines under the ground to break through and hold down the monster. When he holds him down, he signals to Little Nine, who jumps in to finish off the monster. Jiang is excited that he can still play a great role in battles as long as he uses his skills properly, and his growth acceleration skill begins an 8-hour cooldown. When the monster is put down, Jiang quickly grabs the core and crushes it in his palm. Immediately, the secret realm system declares that the Temple of the Undead has been cleared. It calculates the score of each member of the team, awarding Jiang the S grade and giving the others A and B scores. The system generates rewards for him, and our boy picks out a D-rank Edmu's swift dagger, which he decides to use to compensate Uncle Wang for his broken sword. All the equipment given by the system seems to be combat-oriented and unsuitable for the creation class. When he looks around, he finds a really heavy hammer that deals critical damage, but when he gets more experience points that increase all his attributes by 20%, he increases to level 6, and his physical abilities increase immediately, allowing him to effortlessly carry the hammer. Suddenly, Little Nine tugs at his shirt and asks if she can eat the equipment. However, Jiang explains that it's for the rest of the team to exchange for money, and that it'll give her a stomach upset. Sad, she asks if she can devour the boss monster, which he had almost forgotten about, so he tells her it belongs to her. Because the boss seems a little too big, Zhang worries that devouring with poison mist will take time. However, she immediately transforms into her insect form, which surprises Zhang and gobbles up the entire thing. Her screeching is so loud that Zhang worries they would be discovered if they were elsewhere. When she's done, the devouring value increases rapidly, so Zhang realizes that they need to devour more boss-type monsters. Suddenly our boy hears footsteps and fears that the others are returning. Meanwhile, Little Nine's devouring value has reached almost 9,000 out of 10,000. Zhang quickly asks her to revert back to her other form before the others come in. Wang is shocked that Zhang was able to clear this level, and Zhang gives him the dagger in exchange for his broken sword. Zhang is excited by the rare equipment, and Xiaoxi is excited that she found a necklace she can sell for a lot of money. Surprised, Xiaoli asks how he was able to defeat the monster, and Zhang mentions that his poison seems to be more effective in suppressing monsters like that. The secret realm has been cleared and will not refresh again. Getting another boss's devouring value should be enough to start breeding an insect swarm, so our boy decides he'll have to go into the wilderness to find another. When Wang asks Zhang what his next plans are, Zhang informs him that he's planning to join the Night Watch, and he's going to be heading to the wilderness soon to level up before he joins them. His uncle and sisters are shocked because of how dangerous the wilderness is, but Zhang assures them that they need to be more worried for the monsters. Sometime later, a train takes some folks out of the city, and those who are going into the wilderness are asked to step out. Zhang steps out with several other people, and he notices that his appetite for food has increased since awakening his system. Even when eating normal food, his devouring value increases by a few points. He hadn't expected Uncle Wang to give him most of the equipment. Apart from that, he gave him an important storage ring and map after he heard that he was going into the wilderness. According to Uncle Wang, the wilderness is influenced by the power of the heavenly way, and all electronic devices will be affected, almost like an apocalypse. Also, because the monsters perpetually migrate their nests, these maps have a short usage time. Of all monsters, the firebird and rhinoceros are the most common and easy to detect on the map, and the places marked with a question mark are too dangerous and are to be avoided. Although Uncle Wang had told him that the Goblin Dungeon is the most suitable for him, because it has plenty of low-level monsters and few people, Zhang decides to head there. But he suddenly hears a man stop him from behind. The man complains that he's been calling out to him since, and asks if he has seen a girl with golden hair around here. Zhang replies that he hasn't and warns the guy to watch his mouth, simultaneously releasing some poison on his hand that hurts him. The guy is shocked that a kid who hasn't reached level 10 yet can harm him, a level 27 main defense warrior. With the poison still on him, Zhang walks away and tells him to find a healer for his poison as well as a cure for his brain defect. Angry, the guy stops Zhang from leaving and asks how he can dare lay a hand on the Xiao family, but our boy doesn't even know what the Xiao family is. The guy immediately rams his hand on the ground and breaks the ground around him, causing Zhang to jump away for safety. Zhang still doesn't know what the Xiao family is, and the guy angrily tells him to stop running away, calling him a brat. Immediately, our boy decides there's no need to go easy on him and summons Little Nine. When Little Nine's aura overshadows Zhang, the other guy declares that he's not scared of that crap, but someone soon steps in and asks the troublemaker, named Zheng Tai, why he hadn't kept a low profile like he asked him to. The man asks him why he's playing around when he asked him to find someone, and Zheng begins to shiver when he hears the young master's voice. Before he can apologize, the young master calls him useless trash and lands an uppercut right under his jaw. With Zheng on the ground, the young master reminds him that he's only a dog of the Xiao family and has no qualifications to use their name. Zhang, who has been watching, wonders who this young master is and why he didn't feel his presence at all when he approached, which means he's far more dangerous. Suddenly, the young master apologizes for his dog's misbehavior and asks Jiang if he wants compensation, but our boy declines. Intrigued, the young master asks Jiang if he's heading towards the wilderness and proposes he come with them, but Jiang walks away, stating that he prefers going alone. As he walks away, the young master finds it interesting that Jiang is a divine-level creation class. Immediately, Jiang apologizes for messing up his task, but the young master informs him that his target has escaped from the city to cross the wilderness to the nearest post station. He reminds him that she must not be allowed to reach the station alive and orders him to call back all the scattered retainers and follow him into the wilderness. By the way, human beings have dominated this planet and have built countless cities, but with the arrival of the era of beast tides, secret realms, and dungeons, their homes have been invaded. Nowadays, only professionals who pursue power will return to these places, which they now call the wilderness, to fight monsters, upgrade, and seize wealth. While Jiang walks through, he has an unsettling feeling of being lost because he's still not been able to find the goblin nest late at night. He had seen several scattered monsters on his way here, but he can't see anything now. Meanwhile, Little Nine chews on a rat she caught, but its devouring value is too low, and Jiang worries that his inability to find another boss monster will delay his reporting to the Night Watch. Shortly after, it begins to rain, but Jiang suspects that the rain is a wave of magic and wonders if he's entered into a nest area. Meanwhile, a huge spider-like monster tails him from behind. Excited that he's found a nest, Jiang decides to go find the monster that's right behind him. When he looks up, he sees the monster staring at him, so Little Nine asks him if she should help. However, Jiang tells her there's no need because the opponent doesn't have a high level despite its huge body. Immediately, the monster strikes with one of its legs, but Jiang keeps evading all of its attacks. Eventually, he jumps off the ground towards the monster and lands a punch on its back, knocking it into the ground. Suddenly, Little Nine notifies Jiang of several other monsters looking at him from nearby. Immediately, Jiang tells Little Nine that she can eat to her heart's content and summons his dagger, which he laces with poison. They both rush towards the monsters, and Jiang flashes past them, striking each one he passes with his dagger to infect them. Because you can get experience the moment you kill monsters in the wilderness. Unlike at the end as in Secret Realms, Jiang's experience points increase just after one sweep, making him confident he can level up 2 more levels. The monsters are soon consumed by the poison, so Jiang tells Little Nine to eat up all the remains of the monsters, and she celebrates that her master is the best. After she does that, Little Nine notifies him that something delicious is nearby, so Jiang suspects that a boss must be close. He orders her to find it, but when she does, it turns out not to be a monster, but a woman. Shortly after, the lady wakes up and wonders where she is. Jiang rhetorically asks if she's awake, and his voice makes her jump backward, warning him not to come closer. He quickly calms her down and explains that he's an awakened that's hunting in the wilderness, and he won't hurt her. However, she recalls that he was the one who ambushed her here, so he apologizes, saying she looked like a monster. Annoyed, she calls him a rude bastard for saying that. As she continues to protest about how he can misjudge her for a monster, Jiang wonders who she is, especially since she's still fine after taking on his full attack. When her ring suddenly shines, she mentions that she's wasted too much time here and needs to move on so they don't catch on to her. When Jiang hears that, he wonders who's chasing her and what she's hiding, so he asks her what's wrong and why she's leaving all of a sudden. However, she claims that she can't stay here any longer because she's not in a good state to fight and proceeds to leave. But Jiang calls her a brat and tells her that her acting sucks. He considers that it's the best situation for him if the things chasing her are monsters, especially since he can collect more devouring values than the small monsters here. But it'll be a problem if she's being chased by other awakeners because people tend to kill people and steal goods in the wilderness. While he considers going after her, Little Nine informs him that some monsters are approaching them, and his eyes widen at the sheer number of monsters. He wonders if this is what the brat girl was running from, but he decides to embrace the monsters since they're good for devouring value. He immediately tells Little Nine to transform into the poison mist form, which he uses to coat his twin blades. As the monster roars, Jiang leaps over it and tears it up, but he soon notices that these monsters seem to be strangely quicker than the ones before. While he's cutting one, another monster sneaks up behind him, but Jiang easily slices its head off. When he knocks down the monster, he notices that the monsters are taking turns and working together, which is weird. It occurs to him that the boss must be controlling them to attack in this formation. Thousands of monsters with the same mind explain why no other adventurer is here, and Jiang realizes he needs to find a way to get to the boss and kill it first. This is going to be difficult, but Little Nine suddenly informs him that she thinks she can understand them. She angrily screeches and says that those arrogant things are challenging her master. After her scream, the monsters become completely disoriented, and Little Nine explains that she has cut off the connection between them. Jiang didn't even know her skill could be used like this, and this makes it much simpler. He commends her work and suggests they go kill the boss, which she eagerly agrees to. As he leaps towards them, he reminds Little Nine to stay close. Without the control from the boss, the monsters are weaklings, and our boy quickly slices through them. As he sweeps through the monster field, he reminds Little Nine that their one target is that bastard that can give them the most devouring value, until he eventually stomps down the boss monster. When he pushes it down, he's glad he can finally create his insect swarm. Eventually, he kills the monster and levels up to level 14 with stronger power, with an individual combat power that's almost equal to that of a level 24 combat type awakened. Nearby, the smaller monsters retreat, and Jiang decides to leave them and focus on completing his swarm since they don't pose a threat to anyone. Little Nine, who has already transformed into her insect form, waits patiently until Jiang permits her to eat up the boss monsters, which she eagerly does. Elite monsters are on a different level because they provide so much more devouring value, and it seems to Jiang that hunting them is the best way to work on his swarm. When the devouring value reaches the maximum, the insect system asks Jiang if he wants to activate the swarm. Little Nine also informs her master that she can begin reproducing a swarm and pleads with him to allow her to become stronger under his command. Excited, Jiang allows her to start reproducing. Immediately, the system informs him that he has started the reproduction of the first generation of the insect swarm, and his talent of growth acceleration has taken effect to increase the growth of all things. Jiang hadn't expected that his talent could also accelerate the swarm production, and the system soon congratulates him for obtaining the insect nest skill and the level 1 overlord skill. Soon after, the breeding is completed, and Jiang is mesmerized by the sight of the swarm of insects before him. He's told the current swarm population is 2,300, which shocks him, and he begins to wonder how large the third and fourth generations will get. When he checks the system, he notices the swarms also have a few more skills than what Little Nine had, which include the ability to camouflage and self-destruct, which are quite useful. Suddenly, Little Nine hugs her master from behind because she has finished reproduction, and Jiang pats her head and notices nothing much seems to have changed about her. She soon grabs his hand and says she wants to rest, then disappears into the mark in his hand. Surprised, he soon realizes that it's a nest that can accommodate the swarm, which solves the issue of them being discovered. While Little Nine sleeps, Jiang decides to test out the Overlord skill he also received, and the moment he activates it, he gains access to the consciousness of the entire swarm to easily control them. Apart from that, they can also share their senses with him, and he can see the world through the eye of an insect. With their sense, he can see different monsters everywhere than what he'd usually sense, so he decides to try out the skill hunting when he notices how excited the swarm is. They soon ambush some monsters who run away in fear, but Jiang chases them strongly with his poisonous mist and eats them up. With the swarm, he hardly needs to take action anymore because the range of the poisonous mist has expanded, and it devours faster and wider. Also, with the shared vision from the Overlord skill, ordinary monsters can't hide from him anymore, which means he should be able to make another swarm soon. He decides to check the amount of devouring value he needs to level up next, and the figure he sees almost chokes him. Meanwhile, some guy heads back to their hideout, and his big bro quickly demands that he let them know what's happening at the spider nest. When the guy informs the squad that someone forcibly cleared out the nest and there's not a single monster left, the others are completely shocked. The big brother, honestly shocked, guesses it can't be the Night Watch's doing and must properly be a powerful family or group. Their employer had given them the task of retrieving only one bottle of spider venom, and it seems they'll have to rob unlucky victims on their way back to get it. While they're chatting, Jiang enters, glad to find other Awakeners. They demand to know who he is, so he tells them he's just an Awakener who came to level up, and he's willing to trade something with them for food. Surprised, the big brother mentions that food isn't cheap in the wilderness and asks what he wants to trade with. When Jiang mentions that he has valuable items to trade with, the men surround him and reach for their weapons. Immediately, our boy smiles and releases the spiders he had killed from his storage space. The guys stare in horror, and they wonder if this one guy killed all these spiders on his own. Meanwhile, Jiang, who is now level 17, tells them he knows what they were just about to do. He tells them he's in a very bad mood now and asks them to get lost after they pick up the spiders they need. Immediately, the men scurry away after apologizing after getting the package, so Jiang releases some of his swarm to guard the surroundings. After they leave, Jiang realizes he's getting hungrier and didn't know getting the swarm would have this effect on him. As he drinks a soup, his devouring value increases slightly, but the system reminds him to level up as quickly as possible to reach the maximum of 1 million. Jiang had expected to be able to level up soon after getting the swarm, but the outrageous value of the next target makes it seem like it'll take forever. At this point, the devouring value that a boss monster can provide is a drop in the bucket, and even clearing all the nests publicly available outside Jiang City may still not be enough. However, he recalls that the nests and secret realms available to the Night Watch aren't available to the public, so it means he'll have to report to work soon to get a higher devouring value. It seems that Little Nine is still asleep, and Jiang notices someone he knows outside through the eyes of his swarm, as well as many other people, and it unsettles him. Suddenly, the girl he encountered appears in the building and she recognizes him as the one who cleared the spider nest. She pleads with Jiang not to tell the men outside that he saw her, but Jiang wonders how she was able to get close to him without him noticing. Suddenly, he realizes that she must be the girl that those people were chasing, and it's too late to leave now. Soon after, the young master enters with Jiang and a few others. The young master recognizes Jiang immediately, and Jiang asks him if he saw the girl who ran in here just now and threatens to kill him if he doesn't give them information. However, the young master stops Jiang when he notices that Jiang has leveled up to 16 very quickly in just one day, even though he's just a creation type. He tells Jiang he's getting more interested in him, and asks him if he saw a black-haired girl just now, simultaneously pointing his sword at him. Jiang, however, doesn't speak and notices that the young master could be above level 30 based on his strong aura. Also, because he was able to accurately state his level and profession, he must have some appraisal equipment on him. He informs the young master that he saw someone head out the nearby entrance just now, but he doesn't know if it's the person they're looking for. Pleased, the young master chooses to believe him, but warns him that the Gen Empire's Xiao family will not let him be if he finds out that he's helping her. As the men head out, Jiang considers the fact that they're from the Gen Empire. The families from the Gen Empire are high-ranking officials on the frontier and are extremely mysterious. They rarely appear unless there's a major disaster. Some powerful families there are more than capable of destroying the continent, and Jiang immediately begins to regret meeting such a powerful opponent. When they leave, our boy decides that he can no longer stay here because it's not safe. Moments later, the girl reappears again and drags Jiang, asking him to come with her. However, he stops her, reminding her that she almost screwed him over the last time, so he demands to know how she got involved with that group of people. She quickly explains that her family owns a freight station, and the young master had killed everyone to steal the things they were transporting because he was engulfed by greed. However, he didn't expect her escape, and now he's trying to silence her from spreading the information. When he turns away from her, she mentions that she'll remember his help and will repay him in the future, but Jiang tells her he doesn't want to get involved in her crappy situation. As Jiang heads out, something shocking happens, and the girl realizes that the group has cast a barrier spell around them, which means they've been detected. Suddenly, a voice from outside tells them to come out, and Jiang realizes they probably won't believe him if he tells them he doesn't know her. There's quite a lot of people, and the young master, who had suspected that Jiang was lying, orders his group to catch them. The girl accuses the young master of already taking everything her Luo family owns, so she asks him why he wants to kill her so badly, but the young master asks her if he needs a reason. She still protests that the Luo family won't let him off easy if he kills her, but the young master laughs that she must think the Luo family is something just because they have some money. He reminds her that Cretans like them would have been wiped out 100 years ago without the protection of their Xiao family, and they're just peasants and livestock they can slaughter. While Jiang listens in shock, the young master explains that her family can't even investigate him since there'll be no evidence to be found. He immediately stretches out his hand and creates a barrier around the place, which the girl recognizes as the Xiao family's prisoner dragon formation, which will stop them from leaving. Meanwhile, Jiang orders the men to follow the young master's orders and leave no one alive. However, the young master stops them and asks them to leave Jiang alive and kill the girl because he's interested in his divine rank creation type class. He tells Jiang that he recognizes the potential of his power and will give him the chance to gain everything under the sky if he captures that woman and comes to work for them. Posed with such an offer, Jiang laughs, and the girl wonders if Jiang will sell her out. Instead, Jiang comments that the Xiao family bastard really knows how to make suggestions, and he asks him to go fox himself. He immediately refuses and tells them to come at him if they want to fight. Immediately, the young master orders his men to kill them, and the men quickly swing into action. As they move, the young master warns them to be careful because Jiang can use poison, which they affirm. As they approach him, Jiang explains that poison isn't the only thing he can use, so he activates his talent called Evolution of All Things, which causes vines to spring out of the ground and wrap around the men. Jiang, who is being crushed by the weight of the vines, wonders what the heck is going on, but he eventually succeeds in cutting the vine, so he asks the others to do the same because the vines are weak. However, the young master warns his idiotic men that this move is to block their vision because Jiang is going to attack. Before they can respond, Jiang levitates into the air with his swarm around him, and he tells them it's too late. The swarm goes into action and begins attacking the men, and one of them even breaks Jiang's weapon. He's shocked that Jiang can summon monsters, and he soon realizes he can't dodge the poison that's on the monsters. Meanwhile, Jiang is excited that he's caught him right where he wanted him, but the young master soon jumps in on Jiang's shoulders and calls him trash. In the air, the master activates something called the Kongning 9 Form's first form, and Jiang notices that he's faster than his poison mist. A dragon's aura develops around the young master, and Jiang recognizes it as the Xiao family's secret technique called chasing dragons. After landing his attack, the young master comments that he knew Jiang would be hard to deal with, but his level is too low and his attack is too slow. As he gloats about destroying them with his blade, his eyes widen when he sees that the lady has activated the hidden profession Earth's eternal shield to stop his attack, even though it hurts. And Jiang realizes the woman is a defense type. Angry, the young master leaps in to land another attack, surprised that he forgot about the woman's abilities. Jiang immediately summons his insects, and they surround the young master. When the master realizes he can't dodge, he uses Jiang as a body bag for their next attack. The effect of the attack makes him cough profusely, and Jiang calls him a nasty bastard for using one of his men to block the attack. While Jiang bleeds to death, he tries to talk, but the young master tells him that he didn't raise him in vain since he could take the attack for him. The young master soon pops a pill, surprised that he's forced to use the Dragon Yuan pill, and he assures Jiang that this is where it ends. As an ominous aura develops around the young master, he informs Jiang that this is where he will slice his head off. The master rushes in for his next attack with burning eyes and a powerful sword, and activates his Kongning 9 Form's second form. He uses the Dragon Subduing Slash and performs an attack that even destroys the ground as it advances towards Jiang, but the lady quickly enhances the Earth's eternal shield. Soon after, the Dragon Subduing Slash collides with the Earth shield, and the girl moans in pain because the strength of the attack has increased since the young master took the pill. When she complains that her shield cannot take it anymore and they might die, Jiang considers how he could not have expected that the young master still has this much power hidden even after dealing surprisingly strong attacks already. Meanwhile, the master does not back down and keeps sending several Dragon Subduing Slashes at them to break the shield. Our boy realizes his opponent is extremely cruel and has an extraordinary shield, and he cannot afford to show mercy when facing such an opponent. He immediately summons his entire swarm, and that causes the young master to stop his frantic attacks. Meanwhile, the girl, who has lost enough power to maintain the shield, watches Jiang in shock because she had not expected this of a creation type. Immediately, Jiang orders the entire swarm to go forth, and the young master realizes he is in big trouble. As the swarm charges towards him, he laments that there are too many, but he still keeps using his dragon-subduing attacks on them since they are just insects. However, Jiang asks him to check again, and the young master notices that the insects he split open begin to heal. As he frantically cuts, he demands to know what they are and why they are not dying, but Jiang waits to see how long he can last. As time passes, the young master keeps using the dragon-subduing slash to deflect the monsters, until a point where the dragon chi he is emitting becomes swallowed up. Eventually, one of the insects attacks his hand and poisons him, forcing him to drop his weapon. When he realizes he cannot use his weapon anymore, he has no choice but to pull out something he has been hiding called a life jade protector that creates a shield around him, and he asks Jiang if he thinks a few insects can take the life of the great Xiao Yuanwu, referring to himself. Jiang asks him what kind of treasure this is, and how it could be so powerful. He activates his Overlord Devour capability, but the shield remains unaffected, so Yuanwu advises him not to waste his precious energy because this family treasure will block all external attacks once activated, which makes it impossible to harm him. Yuanwu rushes towards him, surprised that he was able to corner him to this extent, but he assures Jiang that he cannot do anything to him regardless. As he closes in on Jiang, he reopens his offer to graft him into the Xiao family if he pledges to work for him, especially because that is an offer that many people dream of. However, Jiang is surprised and asks him if he is so blind to see the situation because he has been a young master for such a long time. Yuanwu supposes that he is trying to bluff his way out of this, and he agrees that he cannot kill him today, but tomorrow is not certain. He explains the power of the Xiao family and reminds him he cannot fight back, but Jiang reminds him that investigations can only be done when there is trace of evidence, just like he had said. He asks Yuanwu what will happen if he dies without a trace of hair left behind, and Yuanwu turns back to see Little Nine behind him in her mother insect form. Little Nine declares that she has woken up and she is here to eat and thanks the master because she is actually starving. Yuanwu just watches in horror as she crushes him to the ground with the overwhelming power of one of her legs, causing him to shriek in pain. While he is being pummeled, he exclaims that this is not possible and asks what kind of insect this is, but Jiang assures him that his life jade protector will be good nutrition for his Little Nine. After a few more strikes from Little Nine, the shield breaks, which utterly confuses Yuanwu. As he begins to bleed, he protests that it is impossible because the Xiao family's jade is supposed to be invincible, but the words barely come out of his mouth when Little Nine crushes his frail body and devours him. When she is done, Jiang summons her back and she hugs her master, celebrating the fact that the Xiao family is nothing. While she thanks her master for the tasty treat, the lady from before watches in utter confusion, and she wonders if Jiang is going to kill her now that she knows his secret. Jiang, who had totally forgotten about her, turns to her and comments that she is still here. Jiang asks her what he should do with her and tells her to give him a reason not to kill her. Scared, she begins to stutter, and eventually, she offers him all the treasure she has on her, which is worth over 10 million and is basically her lifeline. Intrigued, Jiang comments that she's quite sincere, but it's a pity that she knows too much and she knows how to lie as well. Suddenly, she introduces herself as Luo Sandao and swears to the heavens she'll get struck by lightning 5 times if she lies to her benefactor. However, Jiang accuses her of not thinking her lie through by choosing a name like Sandao since she's a girl. Taken aback, she explains that she's being serious, but she also doesn't know what her parents were thinking either, and she eventually offers her identification so he can confirm it. When Jiang collects the identification, he asks if she's really the one in the picture, so she pulls her hair back into a ponytail and explains that the picture was taken 2 years ago when she hadn't had her growth spurt. Regardless, Jiang protests that it's still not guaranteed that she'll keep the secret, and only a dead man tells no tales. Quickly, Sandao opens a portal and retrieves a seal scroll that immediately kills a defaulter once they reveal the secret in it. She eventually swears to protect Jiang's combat secrets to the death, and Jiang hadn't thought there would be such a thing, so he agrees to spare her since she signed the seal scroll. When she hears that, she thanks him, so he asks her how much the scroll cost. Confused, she tells him it cost about 10 million, so Jiang points out that the most valuable item in the storage ring has been used by her. Extremely scared, she pleads with him not to be angry, and she assures him that her parents won't treat her unfairly if he escorts her home. However, Jiang leaves her alone and explains that he has to report to the Night Watch tomorrow, and he wishes her all the best. As he walks away, she assures him that going home with her is much closer than going to the Night Watch because her home has a teleportation station, but he doesn't listen to her. Eventually, Jiang follows her home. Once inside, Sandao's mother angrily reacts to the news of the Xiao family going overboard by robbing money and killing people. Meanwhile, the servants plead with her to calm down because they know they deserve death. Still annoyed, Sandao's mother reacts, but her husband asks her to cease her anger because the most important thing is that their Sandao has returned to them, and the Xiao family, one of the great families in the Zhen Empire, isn't a family they can afford to go against. Suddenly, Sandao's father turns to Jiang and thanks him for saving their daughter, then hands him a black card. He also pleads with Jiang to have breakfast before leaving, and assures him the teleportation will only take a few moments. Jiang receives the black card and attempts to turn down the breakfast, but he soon changes his mind to eat a little when his stomach grumbles mightily. Shortly after, Jiang is taken to the table and he keeps clearing plate after plate of meat. The more insects he controls, the more he has to eat now, and Sandow asks him to eat more if he wants. Meanwhile, Sandow's mother whispers to her husband that Jiang is a creation type but a divine level, and it's surprising that he's able to take on the Xiao family after just awakening. Her husband affirms and agrees that she knows Sandow won't say it, but he's quite handsome. They both consider the fact that Jiang helped them fight against the Xiao family and the fact that he protected their daughter, and they immediately ambush Jiang by asking if he has a girlfriend. They explain that Sandow doesn't have a boyfriend either, and she's skilled in business and financial management, but Sandow almost explodes out of shame. As they continue to talk, Sandow tells them to stop talking impolitely, and Jiang, who is taken aback by their forwardness, thanks them for their hospitality and runs away because he has something urgent to do. When Jiang steps out, her dad asks Sandow why she isn't seeing his son-in-law off, and her mother assures her that the black card they gave him has tracking functionality they can use to find him. However, she curls in her chair and begs them to keep quiet. Even though Jiang is super strong and handsome, she thinks he's quite scary, but she also remembers that he's handsome and strong. Meanwhile, in a gathering of the Xiao family, Xiao Yuanshuan demands that one of his bastard servants find out who destroyed Yuanwu's jade. Soon after, Xiao Beihan, Yuanwu's cousin, steps in and protests that Yuanwu, who is already in his 20s, only just got to level 30, and he claims that their grandpa, Yuanshuan, doesn't need to be angry about the death of a useless person. When he says that, Yuanshuan agrees that Yuanwu's qualifications are indeed mediocre and far more inferior to Beihan's, so it's not a pity that he died, but he's still his grandson, and the culprit must know who he messed with. He demands to know who in the territory of Great Xia has the courage to go against him, so Beihan assures him that after he finishes participating in the Tianjiao camp, he'll slaughter the person for him no matter who they are. Meanwhile, Jiang reaches the Night Watch base office, and Ji is excited to see him, but Jiang didn't know his coming was such a big deal. Ji quickly welcomes him and proceeds to introduce him to the other people, namely Yun Xiaoke, level 45 support, and Xiaoke immediately comments on how handsome Jiang is. Next up, Ji introduces Duan Feng, a level 49 shooter, who is quite proud and doesn't say much. After that, he introduces Chu Bulang, a level 49 armored warrior who's small, very resilient, and quite talkative. Finally, he introduces Tang Jin, a level 61 third transfer fire mage, who's also the deputy commander and a great cook. Flattered, Jiang thanks them all but comments that a mere creation type like him isn't much, and he wonders why they're all so excited. However, Ji asks him what's wrong with the creation level since it's a divine level and assures him they're not looking down on him. Ji assures him that this will be his home in the future, but Jiang had only been looking for a place to gather resources and hide his identity. To get down to business, Ji explains that they'd like to sign him up for the Tianjiao training camp in 3 days so he can get some resources. However, Ji mentions that he'll need to be level 20 or above and wonders how they'll work towards that. But when Jiang states that he's currently at level 17, Ji is shocked that he could reach such a level after just awakening 3 days ago. The man utters a hearty laugh and rejoices because he didn't judge Jiang wrongly. Since it'll be quite easy for him to level up 3 more times, Ji promises to sign him up for the Tianjiao camp. When the other team members glare at Ji, he remembers something and asks Jiang if he ran into any powerful people recently, because there's an unknown third transfer awakener that's using his divine senses to investigate Jiang's whereabouts. Surprised, Jiang wonders if it's the Xiao family. Suddenly, Xiaoqi creates a soundproof barrier first so that they can chat properly. After that, Ji asks Jiang to tell them whatever went wrong instead of hiding it from them. So he confesses that he killed Xiao Yuanwu yesterday, but he didn't leave any traces behind, so he doesn't know how they found out. They're shocked to hear that he messed with the grandson of Xiao Yuanshan, and Jiang realizes he must have caused trouble for the team. It's well known that the Xiao family has committed many evil deeds, and the younger generation of the Xiao family has been committing crimes in recent years. However, even though the Xiao family may be terrifying, Ji recalls that Yuanwu was the least promising and least favored of them all, so old man Yuanshan may not personally take action, but Tang suspects he's going to send someone else. As an orphan, Jiang has had neighbors to support him since he was young, but it's the first time he feels at home. Suddenly it occurs to Ji that Yuanwu may not have been talented, but should have passed his second transfer, and he wonders how a level 17 first transfer creation type like him killed a second transfer level 30 battle type. As Ji shakes him, Jiang asks him to calm down and explains he was helped by someone else. When Ji asks who that is, Jiang explains that Luo Sandao, who has a hidden profession of the defense type, had helped him. The Luo family is headed by the richest man in Jiangnan and has one daughter named Sandao, and that makes Ji celebrate because the Luo family is the wealthiest, even though they aren't very combative, which means the Luo family can stand by Jiang. However, Ji remembers that Sandao wouldn't have much attack power being a defensive type, so Jiang confesses that he has two professions and shows his poison-type hidden profession. As Ji tries to touch his hands, Jiang pulls back and warns him this is very poisonous, but Jiang grabs his hand regardless and assures him his defense is ridiculously high. Suddenly the poison burns Ji, and it seems his defense broke. That makes everyone laugh, and Ji protests that he didn't guard against him at all. Ji quickly calls Xiaoke to help heal his hand, and he commends Jiang's poison skills because more skills make him happier. Suddenly Ji recommends that they avoid registering for the Tianjiao family because he's certain the Xiao family will also be participating, and they can't take risks because of resources. When Jiang asks what kind of resources he's talking about, Ji mentions beast essence, equipment, and even mysterious fruits and secret realm scrolls if he can rank among the top 3. When Jiang hears that, his eyes widen because they have more value than him hunting beasts on his own, and could help him create another swarm soon enough. Immediately, he declares to Ji that he must participate because he's confident that he can protect himself, so Jiang asks for time to think about it. Sometime later, by the west lake of the Xiao family residence, Xiao Beihan practices and strikes the ground under the lake so that the water divides into 2 parts. Suddenly, someone comes to praise him as the strongest pride of the Xiao family, with combat power at another level. But Beihan tells him to stop talking nonsense and asks him if he has found what he was asked to investigate. The man immediately mentions that he found that young master Yuan Wu had some business with a woman named Luo Sandao, who once traveled with a person named Jiang Chen, so Beihan asks who this Jiang is since he knows Sandao doesn't have much combat power. The man who had gathered the information explains that Jiang is a new divine creation type awakener who has recently joined the Night Watch, and it's said that he and Sandao have recently signed up for the Tianjiao camp. However, he states that these 2 people are only suspects and there's no conclusive evidence, but Beihan considers suspicion as good enough, so he decides there's no need for him to make a special trip for him to kill them anymore since they're signing up for the Tianjiao camp. Meanwhile, Ji informs Jiang that he still feels uneasy even though he signed him up for the Tianjiao camp. So, just in case, he found a strong ally for him among the applicants. Her name is Mu Hankyu, the little princess of the Mu family, and Ji suggests that he accompany her to the secret realm to level up and establish a relationship in advance. Furthermore, he mentions that the girl is stunning and the same age as him, so he suggests that Jiang use his handsomeness to win her over when she comes. Sometime later, Hankyu arrives with her uncle Li, and asks Ji why he suddenly changed his mind today when he had refused to borrow her someone from his team just yesterday. Stunned, Ji explains that he didn't agree yesterday because he was angry with her grandfather, but he agreed today because there's an additional condition, which is to bring Jiang Chen along. However, Hankyu asks why they're still negotiating terms when she's already offering a secret realm scroll for free. So Jiang explains that she also came to him because she needed someone around level 50 to enter the dungeon, so everyone wins. Soon after, Hankyu walks towards Jiang and asks what his combat power is, so he tells her he's a level 17 creation type. Immediately, she calls him a rookie below level 20 and a garbage creation type. Suddenly, Ji loses his calm and calls her a little rascal, while Li tries to subdue him, and he states that his Jiang is a divine level and has a dual profession. However, Li asks Ji to calm down because Hankyu just got dumped by her girlfriend, so she's still unstable, and that makes her red in the face, and she quickly accepts the terms to make him shut up. The next day, they meet at the entry of the level 30 secret realm called Beautiful Village, with an entry requirement of up to 5 people below level 50, with conditions that involve clearing all the monsters in Guangming Village, killing the boss, and destroying the altar. Soon after, Duan tells them all to listen well, and states that he'll be the one leading the party this time. He reminds them to immediately return to the teleportation stone if they accidentally get left alone and encounter danger, while Bulong mouths off to Jiang about how the level 30 secret realm scroll is worth 1 billion. Before they enter, Hankyu calls Jiang a rookie and tells him not to cry and drag them down as soon as they enter, but Jiang silently considers that she's crazy. As they head in, Bulong promises to protect Jiang, but our boy has a bad feeling about this. When they get in, Bulong notices everything looks nice, and there are no monsters, but Duan is certain they must be hiding in the houses. When they near the community, Duan sends Bulong and Hankyu to go search for the monsters, while he deals damage and puts Xiaoke and Jiang in the back for support. As they close in on the Guangming village, Duan feels a strange energy emitting from a stone plaque and warns everyone to be careful. Immediately, Xiaoke decides to cast a cleansing bluff for everyone first. Immediately she does that. Jiang notices his head is clearer and his agility and attributes have increased. Suddenly, the atmosphere around the village becomes eerie, and Duan tells them to run back immediately because something is wrong. He soon realizes that this secret realm is a mutation. Immediately, the system announces that the level 30 Beautiful Village has undergone mutation and has been renamed as Dead Spirit Village, with new conditions requiring them to clear the dead spirits and kill the boss. At this point, our boy realizes the secret realm has directly mutated from an ordinary level to a nightmare level, and everyone else has been dispersed by the mutation. At his level, it might be too risky to fight the nightmare level secret realm alone, so he should listen to Duan and go back to the teleportation stone first. When he breaks down a nearby door, he finds that the exit is blocked with a stack of coffins and an eerie painting that seems to be smiling at him. Suddenly the coffins begin to open, and the undead spirits come out to say hi. Each of them is level 30 and is immune to general physical attacks. Their immunity to general physical attacks means using poison won't work on them, so Jiang has no choice but to run away and disperse a poison mist before he leaves. He manages to quickly get out and land on a roof and realizes they're completely unscathed by his attack. Suddenly, Little Nine tells her master that she wants to eat food. He's surprised that she can eat these, especially since eating should be considered a physical attack. Regardless, she insists she can eat them and they're tasty, so he allows her to do it but promises to help her if she gets into trouble. However, with a smirk on her face, she declares that she's strong and leaps into the crowd of spirits. She immediately begins to tear through them and enjoy the pleasure of eating so many. Immediately, Jiang recalls that Little Nine comes from the abyss, and like the undead, belongs to the dark species. After obtaining the evolution skill, she can grow into the Lord of the Abyss, completely higher than these low-level creatures. Since they can be eaten, Jiang summons his entire swarm to come out to have a big meal, but he warns them to ensure not to be seen by other humans. Immediately, the insects begin killing the spirits along with Little Nine, and our boy keeps gaining experience points. Shortly after, he levels up to level 18 with an increase in all his attributes and proficiency. He's shocked that he was able to level up in just a few seconds, and it seems this secret realm is a treasure trove tailored for him. He turns back to investigate the weird portrait, but he notices the portrait is no longer smiling, but is now sweating. When Jiang asks Little Nine if this portrait can be eaten, the man on the image opens his eye in despair. Suddenly, the portrait explodes, and the system notifies Jiang that they've scared the necromancer guard, who's a level 35 elite, to death, and grants him some experience points. For a while, they both just stare at the destroyed portrait in confusion. Meanwhile, Duan is ambushed by a ferocious group of undead spirits, and he keeps pushing them back. He's glad he has a magic weapon longbow with him, without which he would not be able to deal with these creatures. He wonders how the others are doing, especially Jiang, who's not even level 20 yet, and he wonders how he'll explain this to the boss. Suddenly he begins to see pop-ups of his teammate killing several low-level spirits as well as a necromancer guard, and he's dumbfounded. He wonders who's killing them, but he rules out Bulang and Xiaoqi because their properties are more passive and defensive. To him, it can't also be Jiang since he's low level and poisons can't work on these creatures. He immediately suspects that it's Han Q, and he's surprised that she was this strong. Regardless, having someone who can kill these monsters means they can save the others, so he decides to go save Jiang. Meanwhile, Han Q, who has been severely wounded, laments that she can't die because she has a hidden profession, and she wants to participate in the Tianjiao camp to revitalize her family. However, she's running out of energy and can't use her speed skill anymore. She begins to lament that she wants to go home, and when she notices some undead spirits running away, she wonders if it was the teammate that was killing them just now. She suddenly notices a very powerful aura, so she decides to endure a little longer to be saved, but the monsters soon knock her down. When she screams for help, Jiang shows up, and she wonders how it's possible that he's the one killing the monsters. Immediately, she pleaded with him to help her, and he doesn't initially move, but eventually pulls her out of their grasp and tells her to run away. As she runs away, she slips and falls, but suddenly turns back to see big, fearful monsters tearing through the undead spirits, and she thinks it looks cool. She begins to wonder if Jiang is really a creation-type trash, or if this is his true self and part of his hidden poison class. Her heart begins to pound so quickly, and she worries she might have been infected by the poison. Half an hour later, Duan reunites with Bulang and Xiaoke. Bulang complains that the dead spirits are so annoying, and Duan agrees but notes that he didn't see any more of them when he passed a nearby house. Xiaoke wonders if Han Q was the one who cleared those monsters, and if she had a powerful treasure on her. Suddenly, they notice a sign of a recent battle nearby, so they go and investigate. When they get closer, they find pieces of dead spirits, and they frantically begin searching for Jiang because they can't bear the consequences if something happened to him. Eventually, they find Jiang sitting down nearby with Han Q trembling behind him, and pieces of dead spirits littered around. Confused, Duan suspects that these two people are actually spirits that transformed into their teammates to deceive them, because the proud Han Q would never be sitting behind Jiang like this. When Jiang approaches them and signifies that the altar and boss should be behind, Duan stops in his tracks and tells him to answer his questions first. Suddenly, Han Q steps between them and tells them they'll have to get through her to get to Jiang. Suddenly, Jiang pushes her away and clarifies to Duan that he's not a monster, but he's just a bit too charming. When they don't believe him, he reveals personal information about their team, which causes Xiaoke and Bulang to quickly concede. While they check on him, Han Q tries to hold Jiang's arm, but he loudly tells her to get her act together and stop acting strangely, so she pleads with him not to get angry, and that intrigues the other team members. Soon after, Jiang asks the others if they want to fight the boss or not, and they eagerly accept. They immediately head to the backyard, where they find the dead spirit leader, who's at a boss level of 40. Duan attempts to get its attention and tells Han Q to protect Jiang. He asks Xiaoke to keep her buffs constant and dodge the attack, while Bulong deals damage but keeps himself safe. He warns them to be careful because they can't make mistakes, and he tells everyone to create some distance when the beast begins to move. Suddenly, the boss bows to them and covers its face, confusing them all. Duan wonders if it's begging, so Jiang asks the others to leave the boss to him since they're all really injured. He immediately summons little Neen to eat, and she immediately kills the boss leader and grants Jiang a load of experience points. After that, our boy levels up to 26 and gains more attributes and proficiency points. Shortly after, the system congratulates them on clearing the secret realm and defeating the final boss. The other teammates are shocked the boss just died like that, and they realize he's the one who instantly killed the dead spirits. Jiang, however, just laughs and says he was lucky that his poison was effective against them. When the system calculates rewards, Duan gets C-grade rewards, Bulong gets D-grade, Yun gets D-grade, Hongqiu gets E-grade, while Jiang gets SSS grade. However, they all get a team reward called Medal of the Dead that can absorb a fatal attack once. Shocked by the level of the team reward and individual rewards, they realize that Jiang basically carried them for the whole secret realm, so they all thank him. A while later, Jiang considers that the drop rate of good items in this secret realm is awesome and the equipment is probably worth millions. He decides to keep the invisibility cloak and sell the rest when they get back to buy blood essence for his young insect. Meanwhile, Jiang's devouring value has increased significantly, and he hopes he'd be able to get another swarm soon if they drink some blood essence. When they return to the Night Watch office building, Ji is surprised to learn that the secret realm mutated, and Jiang conquered Hongqiu and saved them through the whole thing. He immediately asks the rest of them to go so he can speak to Jiang alone. When they're alone, he asks Jiang to be honest with him about the reason his poison can work on these dead spirits, because he can't be deceived like the rest. He asks him what else he's hiding, and Jiang wonders if he'll have to reveal his insects, which are calamities from ancient times and aren't socially acceptable. Ji walks towards him and asks him to talk, and when Jiang begins to stutter, Ji begins to laugh that even a guy like him can get nervous and asks what happened to the courage he had in the secret realm. Jiang mentions that he scared him, but Ji assures him he didn't mean to scare him, but he also doesn't want to force him to say it if he's not ready. He informs him he's happy that he has various powers and mentions that the Night Watch will depend on him to create more glory. They joke for a while, and Ji mentions that it's good that Jiang has more cards up his sleeves, but there are things that he needs to explain. He immediately drops 3 corpses from his storage space and explains that they are at the very least 3rd transfer masters above level 60 and 2 level 90, or above 4th transfer great masters. Ji agrees that he can't handle any of them, but he only collected their corpses. Jiang asks if they were trying to kill him, but Ji assures him that they came to kill Mu Hongqiu, but were secretly taken care of by her guardian. Confused, Jiang asks why they were trying to assassinate Hongqiu, so Ji shows him something called a Great Xia Genius hunting list with names he hasn't seen before. However, the 4th name on the list is Xiao Beihan, from the Zhen Empire's Xiao family, and that shocks Jiang. Ji calmly explains that these are all top-tier geniuses of Jiang's generation in Great Xia, and that they'll all participate in the Tianjiao camp of the 8 major zones, and Xiao Beihan will be with Jiang in the Jiangnan zone. Apparently, the top 100 geniuses of Great Xia have the lowest of them as descendants of the Seal Kings. As a descendant of one of the 12 Seal Kings in Jiangnan, Mu Hongqiu only ranks 77th. But there were countless masters who tried to assassinate her regardless, but they were all taken care of by her secret guards, indicating the strength of those guarding her. Ji points out that the strength of the Zhen Empire's Xiao family is on a whole different level than that of the Seal Kings, so Jiang guesses that he's showing him this to warn him from drawing attention in the Tianjiao camp. Ji explains that the greater his potential, the more dangers he will encounter, so he shouldn't go exposing his power except when absolutely necessary, especially because there are powerful forces behind other geniuses that protect them. He also explains that even though he's backing him, he's not very skilled and has only job transferred 3 times and won't be able to protect him well. Surprised that Uncle Ji is trying to protect him so much and isn't blaming him for hiding something, Jiang promises to take heed of his warning. Finally, Ji slyly asks our boy what he did to Hongqiu, but Jiang immediately leaves and says he needs to go rest. Sometime later, Jiang purchases plenty of 3rd rank and 4th rank blood essence after selling off most of his equipment so he can get his 2nd swarm now. He pours the 3rd rank essence, which is equivalent to above level 63rd transfer master for humans, on his hands so it can reach the nest. Soon after, Little Nine appears and says she wants to eat, but Jiang playfully explains that she can't eat it for now because it's still early for her next production. However, she begins to cry, so he eventually allows her. After that, our boy uses the 4th rank blood essence, which is equivalent to a level 94th transfer great master, while Little Nine is sipping another bottle nearby and leveling up. Shortly after, the insect system explains that Little Nine's offspring have begun to also reproduce, and each of them reproduces about 40 to 60, but the reproduction time will be accelerated using his evolution skill. Shortly after, the reproduction is completed, and the number of the swarm is now 100,000. Suddenly, Jiang begins to lose control of the swarm, and they all attempt to come out into the open. He struggles to suppress them because this is his house, and they can't come out. Their power is so great that he has to insist until they return to the nest. He manages to get them back inside, but that's after they've destroyed a portion of his house. Looking at Little Nine, who is still licking one of the empty bottles, he realizes these insects only know how to eat and wonders how he can manage them. Shortly after, the insect system displays that Little Nine has reached level 21, and Jiang's power evaluation has reached 197 stars, and he supposes that it may be increasing too fast because it's almost catching up with the average third transfer master. Everything is set, and now he'll have to wait for the Tianjiao camp trip tomorrow, where he'll be able to complete his second transfer if he can reach level 30. When that happens, he can get a new mother insect. Meanwhile, in the Night Watch base, Tang confronts Ji about his wish to bring his teacher, the Heavenly Blade King, into the matter about Jiang. However, Ji protests that he's doing this just in case because Jiang will encounter the arrogant Beihan in the Tiangnan zone, and it will be impossible to hide secrets in the Tianjiao camp. He explains that there's something on Jiang that makes him feel scared, and he's worried his poison type is actually taboo. Shocked, Tang tells him not to scare her and asks how that's possible. She's scared because of the turbulence caused by the Devourer 600 years ago, and the birth of the forbidden occupation in Great Xia after those who were discovered with it were immediately killed. She protests that it would have been revealed when Jiang first awakened if he had a forbidden profession, and states that Ji is just being paranoid. Meanwhile, Ji also hopes he's just being paranoid. Sometime later, Jiang goes into the woods and it seems like he's lost and can't interpret the map. Suddenly, he hears a cry for help and finds a man who is scared of heights stuck on a tree, so he uses his growth of all things skill to raise vines that pick him from the tree. When he drops him, the man laments that the bird's nest didn't look that high up until he got there, but Jiang doesn't know what his deal is. When the man gets up, he asks Jiang if there's anything he can do to repay him, so Jiang asks him if he knows how to get to the Tianjiao camp. Excited, the man explains that he's headed there and asks Jiang to follow him. While they go there, Jiang asks the man if he's also an awakened and why he doesn't keep his sword in his inventory space, but the man explains that he's not an awakened but only trains in the sword. Apparently, he failed in awakening and tried to make a living, but eventually couldn't afford a toilet in the city. After that, he ran into the mountains to kill himself, until he found a hut left by an old hunter and the blade with him. So, he decided to practice swordsmanship in the mountains every day, and he eventually had an epiphany after training for 50 years. Suddenly, the man asks Jiang if he's willing to learn from him, even though he only knows one move. When it gets awkward, the man realizes he's being too forward and says he'll wait until Jiang wants to learn. Shortly after, when Jiang notices the Tianjiao camp, he turns back and doesn't find the weird old man. Nearby the Tianjiao camp, some aircraft survey from above, while those who want to enter are asked to queue up to report and get an identity band, which they're warned not to remove unless eliminated. Soon after, Jiang gets his wristband, but he soon encounters Sandao, who eagerly calls him her benefactor, and Han Qiu, who calls him her master. Jiang is awestruck and wonders when he became Han Qiu's master. Immediately, Han Qiu recognizes Sandao as her ex-crush, while Sandao recalls her as a pervert. Soon after, both girls get into an argument about Han Qiu's promiscuous relationships with her girlfriends and excessive Yuri novel consumption. When Sandao asks Han Qiu why she's still following her, she clarifies that she's only here for her master. Suddenly, Sandao playfully accuses Han Qiu of never liking girls after all, but Han Qiu confesses that Jiang made her heart move. Soon after, both girls reunite and playfully consider themselves rivals in love, while Jiang watches the ridiculous way girls think. Suddenly, they hear a loud noise nearby and it seems someone is fighting. The angry patrol instructor, whose level is at that of a third transfer grandmaster, goes to settle things, annoyed that they're already fighting before entering camp. When he moves forward, the patrol instructor is thrown back several feet, so he informs them to notify the higher-ups that those crazy people are here. Surprised, Sandao wonders who would throw a third-level grandmaster back with one hit, but Han Qiu reasons that it's the top performers from the Jiangnan zone. The short-haired woman is named Tang Ying, an assassin type who's ridiculously strong and the youngest gold medal assassin in Tianji Tower. It is said that recently she assassinated a fourth transfer grandmaster. The one who's emitting a blood-red aura is called Bai Feng, known as the Little Killer God, and the disciple of the commander-in-chief of the last China Sea defense line. He's the most brilliant genius in the military region, but seems to have some psychological problems and easily goes out of control. The blue-haired man is called Xiao Beihan, whose grandfather is one of the 7 pillars of Great Xia, and his Qinglian sword immortal profession is considered god level. Sandao immediately recognizes Beihan as a thieving bastard because the sword in his hand was stolen from her family, and Jiang realizes that Beihan is countless times stronger than Yuanwu, whom he had killed. There's one more guy being surrounded by all the others, and Han Qiu introduces him as the invincible descendant, Jiang Wushuang, who's said to have 3 hidden professions. He's obviously unbelievably strong, and they still can't beat him even with their combined strength. Jiang recalls that this is the guy ranked 3rd on the Great Xia Genius hunting list, which explains a lot, and he wonders if his insects can handle these people. Suddenly, Beihan leaps in front of them and strikes the ground, which startles Sandao, so Jiang tells him to be careful. Beihan compliments Wushuang's fist style since it was able to blow him away. When Jiang calls out to him, Beihan calls him by name and mentions that he heard that Yuanwu died at his hands. He confesses that he doesn't like the useless Yuanwu either, but Jiang would have to die regardless. He states that he was planning to finish off Wushuang first, but he'll now focus on dealing with him. However, Jiang responds to Beihan that his strength is different, but everyone in the Shao family has the same rotten personality, then generates his poison. It seems that he'll have no choice but to break his promise to Uncle Ji. As both boys prepare for a face-off, a force sweeps between them, and they're told to move aside because the chief instructor, Heavenly Blade King, has arrived. The force that breaks the ground in two turns out to be from the old man that Jiang had saved, and he informs those who want to fight that they'll have to answer to the sword in his hand. Jiang realizes the Heavenly Blade King is the old man he met, and he realizes that one wave of his sword shook the four geniuses so much that they can't move, and even almost affected his insects too. Soon after, the vice commander of the camp, Yang Guang, informs the Heavenly Blade King, Senior Gu, that all 300 geniuses are present and asks him to prepare to go on stage and host the opening ceremony. The participants begin to chatter about how there's never been a king-level figure in charge of the many Tianjiao camps in the Jiangnan zone. Even though they're standing dozens of meters behind, he can still kill them all in one move. They wonder why the master is coming out now when he's said to be lying in seclusion. And when someone mentions that it seems the old master is out to recruit a disciple, some of them plan to perform to impress him. Meanwhile, Ying watches the Heavenly Master, while Feng is glad to have finally met the living legend. Beihan, on the other hand, plans to defeat Wushuang once camp begins to leave a good impression on the old master, while Wushuang plans to find a way to make the Heavenly Blade King his master. Jiang, who notices everyone's excitement, asks the two ladies if they know the old master, so Sandao mentions that she's been hearing legends about him since she was young. Apparently he's not an awakener, but he's able to suppress a group of 7th transfer Seal Kings and become the #1 Seal King under the Zhen Empire, and it's said that he once slayed a dragon in one strike. Hankyu chimes in by saying that the Heavenly Blade is a Seal King just like her grandfather, but the senior Heavenly Blade King is her grandfather's most respected existence, and she had wished to be discipled by him, but he's turned down several offers to disciple anyone. Meanwhile, Jiang, who is shocked to have received an offer from him just this morning, asks if they're sure it's hard to become his disciple. To clarify, Hankyu explains that even Wushuang and Feng, with all their abilities, were both rejected by the senior blade god before, so it's quite hard to be his disciple. Finally, Sandao adds that the old master has only accepted 2 disciples in his life, and that was more than 20 years ago. After hearing all that, Jiang struggles to reconcile this with the person he met this morning. Soon after, Senior Gu Kaitian goes on the stage and introduces himself as the chief instructor of the Tianjiao camp. Gu mentions that their Jiangnan zone's Tianjiao camp has been underperforming for the past few years because their fights have only been for show, and they'll end up dead without burial in a real battle. He states that there are more and more monsters in this world, and they need more capable geniuses, so in order to make a better selection, he has created a new set of rules for this camp called Death Quota. When Deputy Commander Guang mildly protests, the senior states that he has the final say here, and he will bear the responsibility if anything happens. Shocked, Guang reasons that they've never had a death index in the history of Tianjiao camps, and this may create a lot of chaos. Gu states that 10 of them will die for him in every round of the test, and tells them they can leave if they want to withdraw. While some participants consider that they can't withdraw so as not to shame their family, some lament that they don't want to die. Meanwhile, Wushuang is glad about the new development, and believes the camp should have done this ages ago, but Beihan believes the rule must be specially made for him, because he can now meet 2 of the old master's quota. Also, Jiang considers that Uncle Ji won't have to worry too much because of this quota if the conflicts between him and Beihan escalate, and he kills him. When no one withdraws, Gu seems pleased and states that it seems everyone still has some pride in them. He immediately announces the commencement of the camp entry assessment, which will eliminate half of the 300 people present through a game where they have to use any method possible to possess any of the 150 flags in the camp before 6 o'clock in the morning on the second day. He tells them to fight with confidence, kill with confidence, fight alone, form alliances, or even tear down the entire camp if they wish. He immediately disperses them, and the participants begin to frantically run around to find the flag and hide from the top students, who are quite ruthless. Meanwhile, Beihan turns to Jiang, so our boy tells the ladies to search for the advancement flags while he deals with Beihan. When Hankyu protests, Jiang tells her it's an order and asks her to go. The move makes Beihan laugh, and he asks if a newbie like him, who isn't even a second transfer, wants to be a hero. Even though Beihan's sword energy is indeed powerful, Jiang has gotten much stronger than before, so he tells Beihan to stop talking nonsense. However, he's not certain that it'll be possible to deal with him with just the poison without the use of a swarm. Immediately, Beihan directs an energy wave with his sword, affirming that there's no need to talk with a dead corpse. Before the attack can reach Jiang, another surprising attack sweeps past him toward Beihan to match up with the initial wave. It turns out to be Tang Ying, and Beihan asks her the meaning of what she's doing. Ying reminds him of their agreement with Feng to kill Wushuang once the camp starts, and accuses him of dealing with insignificant matters because he's afraid of Wushuang, so Beihan angrily retorts that he's not afraid. He quickly follows her to deal with Wushuang and come back to deal with this trash later, so Ying informs him that Wushuang is headed towards the forest, and Feng is pursuing him now. Zhang just watches in surprise, and he has an odd feeling that Ying is helping him intentionally. Suddenly, she turns back and winks at him, which confirms his suspicions. While Zhang wonders why this stranger is helping him, Ying recalls how her aunt, Tang Jin, had asked her to secretly take care of Zhang in the Tianjiao camp. But she can only do that by distracting Beihan because she can't fight him head-on. Meanwhile, a descendant of a venerable 6th transfer named Huang Yongchao, whose father is a subordinate to the Xiao family patriarch, comes to present 3 advancement flags as a show of his dedication to Beihan. However, Beihan states that he doesn't need them, but he'd like him to do something else if he really wants to show his loyalty. When Ying realizes what's about to happen, she knows that Jiang will have to deal with this himself, but she hopes that Han Qiu and Sandao can protect him. Meanwhile, Sandao finds 2 advancement flags, so Jiang asks the 2 ladies to have them while he goes elsewhere to find some. Suddenly, an explosion occurs in the building, so Jiang asks the person to reveal himself and asks if he or she is here to steal the flag, while Han Qiu stands guard. It turns out to be Yang Chao, but he's not here to steal the flag but to take Jiang's life. Sandao immediately recognizes him, and she knows he has a hidden profession called Sun's Extreme Flame Archer, a level 39 Awakener, and the son of a 6th transfer Venerable. She's not certain her Earth's eternal shield can block his attack, but when Yang Chao fires an arrow of flames towards them, Jiang asks the ladies to get out of his way as he rushes forward with a poison mist in his hand. Jiang warns Yang Chao not to blame him for being ruthless if he plans to kill him, especially since they need to meet the death quota. As Yang Chao leaps down, Jiang creates a poison cloud right above himself, and Yang Chao is shocked to see a creation type using poison type. Yang Chao quickly calls on his brothers to come out of hiding so they can attack Jiang together, but no one responds, and he's engulfed by the poison mist that soon begins to eat up his skin. As he screams from the excruciating pain, his brothers run to safety to escape the guy with the hidden poison type, especially since a ranged type like Yang Chao couldn't deal with the guy. Meanwhile, Senior Gu and Deputy Commander Guang watch the whole thing on camera. Gu commends Jiang on doing a good job, admiring his hidden poison type. Guang, on the other hand, is shocked that he killed a 2nd transfer so easily. Jiang seems unbelievable to him, and he wonders how he got no report from the Night Watch in Chujiang City about this. Immediately, Gu asks him to go report this, and he tells him to get a few more space-type Great Masters so that they can be ready to teleport at any time to prevent the brats from getting too ruthless. Guang quickly heads out before Gu changes his mind because the consequences will be terrible if the geniuses begin a massacre. Suddenly, Gu calls him back and tells him to prepare 10 3rd-tier peak ferocious beasts and attach the Qingyun flags to them. Guang considers the idea brilliant because this will force the geniuses to face the monsters with the flags on them instead of harming ordinary people. Meanwhile, Ying, Beihan, and Feng surround Wushuang, but Wushuang reminds them that all 3 of them still can't kill him, and it seems they're all asking to die. He also reminds them that they can't feel any glory in winning because there are 3 of them against 1 of him. Suddenly, Jiang's elimination of Yang Chao is announced, and this seems to be the first blood. The announcement shocks Beihan because even though Yang Chao's abilities are ordinary, he's still a decent 2nd transfer and is among the top 50 in the camp. Apart from that, Yang Chao is much stronger than Jiang, so he shouldn't have been killed so quickly. Ying considers that her aunt had said that Jiang is just a level 26 creation type, and it doesn't explain how he was able to kill so quickly when it would have taken her time to kill. Feng, on the other hand, considers that Jiang must be the hidden crouching tiger in this camp, and Wushuang suggests to the 3 of them to go meet the other expert among them. Suddenly, another announcement is made about the deployment of 10 3rd-tier peak ferocious beasts with 3 Qingyun flags on them. It's also stated that those who possess the Qingyun flags will receive additional ranking weight, with the top 10 receiving rewards and the first place receiving 100 million. Meanwhile, Jiang considers that the camp is too generous for giving the first place 100 million, and he reasons that he'll be able to reproduce quickly again if he can get that money and other resources they're offering. Suddenly, one of the monsters approaches them, and Han Qiu warns them to be careful because the monster is equivalent to a level 80 to 93rd transfer Grandmaster. When Sandao notices that the monster is still in its paralyzed state since it was just let out, she proposes that they take the chance to hide, but Jiang asks the ladies to hide further away and rushes towards the monster. As Jiang rushes towards the monster, a strong strike wave passes in front of him, and it turns out to be from Beihan, who admires his ability to kill Yang Chao and his tenacity to immediately snatch away the Qingyun flag. He admits that he had underestimated him before but pledges to kill him today. Immediately, Jiang tells Beihan to stop talking nonsense if he wants to fight. Annoyed, the young master launches an attack at him called the Heaven and Earth Wind Dragon Slash, and Jiang moves backward to avoid it. When Beihan notices that Jiang has a hidden poison type, he comments that it's still nothing against his sword, even though poison types are hard to deal with. Hankyu begins to panic because wind can counter poison and her master is in danger. However, Sundao stops her from interfering because Jiang's poison is strong, and interfering could disturb the fight. Meanwhile, Jiang creates a poison mist dragon around Beihan that surprises him. When Beihan realizes the advancing poison can't be dispersed, he decides to surround it by using the forbidden technique, Azure Lotus Sword Immortal, and asks Jiang to watch how his sword energy will consume all of his poison mist. Intrigued, Jiang also realizes that it's easier for him to devour with Beihan's sword energy blocking anyone from seeing him. He immediately dispatches Little Nine to consume the energy, which increases her devouring value, and he asks her to help him break the energy once she's full. When she breaks it, the poison hits Beihan, knocking him backward, and he incredulously asks how poison can destroy sword energy. He immediately activates his Life Jade Protector and announces that his poison can't penetrate his Life Jade, which means Jiang is doomed. The only problem is that this battleground is on camera, and Jiang can't afford to let his insects show their true form. Eventually, he asks Sundao if she can give him an opaque Earth's eternal shield that covers this area, so she decides to try. She immediately summons the Earth's eternal shield cover, and Beihan demands to know what he's trying to do. After the shield is up, Jiang asks Beihan to guess how Yuanwu died. Annoyed, Beihan asks how he can compare the life jade of a trash like Yuanwu to his, and asks if he's really that naive. However, Jiang tells him he's the one being naive by comparing his past strength to his present, so he orders Little Nine to smash him into bits. Eagerly, Little Nine rushes towards the confused Beihan and she furiously attacks his shield. When Beihan activates his sword energy protection, it surprises Jiang, who didn't expect him to be this capable. Suddenly the monster awakens and Jiang has no choice but to use his full power. He quickly summons the poison mist dragon and asks it to corrode Beihan's sword energy and cover Little Nine. Finally, he summons his swarm to come enjoy some ferocious beast meat. When the mist dragon corrodes the sword energy, Beihan realizes he doesn't have a way to attack, and Little Nine continues to attack the shield in her human form. When the shield doesn't break, Jiang realizes that Xiao Yuanshuan treats his grandsons differently, and Beihan's life jade is much more durable. However, no matter how durable, it'll only be a matter of time before Little Nine smashes it to pieces. Meanwhile, Guang watches from the camera and he realizes that Beihan seemed to be at a disadvantage just now, and Jiang has now blocked the surveillance. He immediately asks one of the Space Masters, Fang Cheng Yuan, to check Beihan's mental spirit and teleport him immediately if something is wrong. Surprised, Gu asks if Yuanshuan's grandsons aren't allowed to be hurt or killed, but Guang asks him if he's really prepared to fight a war with Yuanshuan if Beihan really got hurt, and asks if their Jiangnan Zone's commander Duan knows about this. Surprised, Gu really wonders if Jiang can kill Beihan, whose abilities are considered to be the cream of the crop, and he wonders why the brat is blocking their view. Inside the shield, the ferocious beast is completely mauled by his insects, while Little Nine starts to leave cracks on Beihan's life jade. He's shocked that his life jade can crack, and Jiang realizes that Beihan won't last much longer. Suddenly, Jiang receives a message from a space-type instructor not to go overboard because space-type Grandmaster Fang Cheng Yuan is coming over, so he immediately summons Little Nine back. To finish this fight as quickly as possible so as not to be exposed, he orders one of the insects to self-destruct and destroy the life jade while the rest turn into poison. So one of the insects clings to the jade and begins to destroy itself. As Beihan watches in horror, the insect triggers a huge explosion that causes smoke to rise in the shield and breaks the life jade. After the smoke clears, Jiang sees one of Beihan's hands with his sword nearby, and he wonders if only a limb is left or if he was saved by the space-type Grandmaster. He immediately gives Sandao the sword, and she thanks him profusely. Since Jiang has 3 Qingyun flags from the monsters, he's advanced to the top 10. He offers to give them one each, but they refuse because they want to see him defeat Wushuang and reach first place. Inside the command center, Guang berates Cheng Yuan about being unable to teleport Beihan in time, but Cheng Yuan protests that he couldn't because the poison mist was too vicious. Apparently, he sent in his mental energy, but it was soon corroded, and after he heard a loud explosion, he teleported there, but it was already too late. When Guang demands to know how mental spirit can be corroded, Gu silences him. Gu tells Guang that the reason he's always stuck at the peak of the 5th transfer is because he favors the powerful so much that he can't pass the test of conscience. When he had earlier mentioned Xiao Yuanshuan and the consequences, Gu couldn't be bothered to respond, but now he directly tells him he'll face whatever consequences follow because anyone can die on a battlefield. When Guang protests about what their commander Duan would say, Gu orders him to report this internally within the camp first, but keep the information confidential to outsiders. He asks him to prevent the eliminated from leaving the camp after the test ends tomorrow, including Beihan, while he heads to the Jiangnan headquarters first. Inside the camp, Jiang's elimination of Beihan is announced, and several people almost have a stroke upon hearing that. Meanwhile, Ying and Feng, who team up to take down one of the ferocious monsters, are awestruck to hear that Jiang could take down Beihan, and Wushuang, who has already taken down one of the monsters, is quite intrigued. At the Jiangnan Zone's headquarters, the commander-in-chief, Duan Xinghai, notices old Gu barging in and asks him if he's found any good seedlings in the camp because of his urgent demeanor. Before he speaks, Gu activates a forbidden barrier that covers the entire area they're in, and Duan realizes it's not an ordinary seedling. Immediately, Gu sits with Duan and proceeds to ask a question, because he's knowledgeable and good at theory. He asks if poison can corrode mental spirit, and Duan agrees that it's possible in theory, but very difficult. When Duan mentions that it's only poison whose intensity is immeasurable that can do such, Gu asks if he's heard of it happening before, but Duan says he hasn't, and even a poison king at the 4th transfer peak couldn't do it. Surprised, Duan asks if an extremely terrifying poison type has appeared in the Tianjiao camp, because it would be a massive weapon if he could corrode mental spirit. However, Gu replies that it's not possible to draw a conclusion at the moment. When Duan insists, since he hasn't interfered with the affairs of the camp prior to now, Gu asks him if he thinks there's a possibility for the poison to have its own consciousness, but Duan thinks that's a joke, because such poison isn't truly poison but a disguise. That surprises Gu, so Duan speaks about a record he came across in the ruins about a catastrophic type of insect called 9 miasma wings that can turn into poison mist. Apparently, the 9 miasma wing was born in the 9 abyss, and it once caused an apocalypse that destroyed the world. The mention of that ancient calamity shocks Gu further, but Duan teases Gu for being scared because this insect has gone extinct, and it's impossible for it to exist today. Intrigued, Gu thanks Duan for his help and proceeds to head back to the camp, but Duan protestingly reminds him he's not told him about the remarkable seedling he found. Before he can finish his statement, Gu steps through a teleportation portal, and he thinks about the thing he just heard. To him, just the divine ranking is enough for Jiang to top the hunting list, but yet he has decided to harbor a forbidden power that would get him beheaded in Great Xia. This is also the fault of Jigang, his dog disciple, who always causes problems for his master. A while back, Ji came to meet him about an unparalleled seedling that hasn't yet matured. He had told him that the boy had offended the Xiao family, and he hopes the master can take care of him in the Tianjiao camp, or maybe even accept him as his disciple. He considers that the bratty Ji had just wanted him to cover for Jiang, and as he steps out of the portal, he also wonders what the big deal is if it's a forbidden power, since a blade can both slaughter and protect. Since he said he's going to accept a disciple, he chooses that he'll protect this Jiang. However, since a calamity is not to be underestimated, he also decides to send someone named Hong Yao to confirm things first to be safe. He sends a message to Hong Yao to go to the number 0 ruins to investigate the 9 miasma wings, but warns him to be careful because it concerns his junior. When he enters the command room, Guang informs him that it's nearing its end, because the ordinary geniuses are all fighting to get the advancement flag, while 9 ferocious beasts have been released to the top geniuses, except one. Apparently, a certain Lei Zhe and Liu Jizhe teamed up to kill one. Tan Ying and Bai Feng are working together to kill the second one, while Wu Shuang instantly killed 3 of them at once, but seems to be moving in Jiang's direction. When Gu asks about Jiang, he's told Jiang has killed 2 beasts, but they've released the 9th beast to his vicinity. Meanwhile, Jiang sees the 9th beast and is excited to see another one. He considers that it's time to eat and pours the poison now, and Little Nine does her job of eating up the monster with great increments to her devouring value. Shortly after, the monster is totally consumed and Little Nine leveled up to level 22 from 21. Suddenly, a huge hand bears down on Jiang from above, so Han Qiu warns him to be careful because someone is ambushing him, while Sandao quickly opens the earth shield. However, Jiang stops the 2 girls when he realizes that the punch must be from Wu Shuang. Soon after, the earth shield is cracked and both ladies are knocked back and injured. However, Jiang isn't moved back and he sends his mist towards the powerful hand moving towards him, but its sheer force still pushes him backward. The collision raises some dust, and Wu Shuang is surprised that his poison actually ate his punch and realizes why the geniuses call him the poison demon. Zhang also commends his pretty powerful punch, which is typical of the 3rd-ranking genius in Great Xia. Zhang asks him if he's here to snatch the ferocious beast from him, but Wu Shuang laughs that the beast is way too poisonous and just its shell is left, so there's nothing to steal. When Jiang asks him what he wants, Wu Shuang assures him he was only curious about him and wanted to meet him. When Wu Shuang expresses that he wants to face him, Jiang asks if he's willing to bet his life on it, so he agrees if Jiang is going to bet his own life too. Our boy quickly agrees and pours out his poison mist towards Wu Shuang, who also releases his energy in a move called a 1,000-foot cliff to deflect the poison away from himself, which shocks Jiang. After that, Wu Shuang reciprocates with his own attack, and it knocks Jiang backward. Jiang becomes worried that his opponent's punches are too fierce and fast, and his poison is spreading too slowly. Because he was hit, Little Nine calls out to him in a panic, so he asks her if she can level up several times if she consumes flesh and blood of this level. She agrees but explains that she can't beat Wu Shuang, but she's willing to die for her master. Her comment surprises Jiang because it's the first time he's seen her scared, so it seems that self-destruction is the only option left to him. He tells her to hide if she can't win because he can't afford to let her die. Meanwhile, Wu Shuang asks him if he's already losing his strength, and he mentions that this doesn't look like the person who defeated Beihan. Suddenly, Jiang places his hands on the ground, and an enormous vine creates a shield around them, which intrigues Wushuang. He recalls that Beihan was defeated inside a shield too, which seems interesting. Meanwhile, Guang notifies the master that Jiang is blocking surveillance again, so Gu immediately summons Cheng Yuan. However, Guang clarifies that there's no need to intervene because Wushuang seems to be having the upper hand, but Gu clarifies that he's talking about saving Jiang. When Guang asks if the master isn't being too biased, Gu deflects his claims, stating that there's no comparison between a level 46 Wushuang and a level 26 Jiang. In truth, he's trying to protect Jiang because he's going to discipline him. Meanwhile, inside the shield, Jiang releases his entire swarm, and Wushuang becomes alarmed when he sees his true power. Suddenly, Wushuang creates a whirlwind to overturn everything, but Jiang encircles him with the mist regardless. When Wushuang sees he's surrounded, he pushes out punches from the ground that squash all the bugs that come close. However, there are too many, and some get too close, and Jiang makes them self-destruct when they come close. Somehow, Wushuang manages to jump out of the way, which shocks Jiang, and he states that he finally understands how Beihan lost. Mid-air, he blasts Jiang with a torrent of energy that shakes him and crushes the ground under him. This punch is several times stronger than the last one, and Jiang is surprised by the power of Wudi's descendants. Two self-destructs only managed to blow away the force of his punch but didn't hurt him at all. He wonders if he has to self-destruct dozens or hundreds of them to make a difference, but he had worked hard to breed them. However, it seems he has no choice now, so he triggers 10 self-destructs, and that knocks Wushuang backward. When Wushuang lands on the ground, Jiang stretches out his vines to touch him, but Wushuang suddenly states that the battle is over. Confused, Jiang asks what he means, so Wushuang states that he sees him as a worthy opponent since he's only at this first awakening, but he's forced him to use 80% of his power, which makes him want to fight him again after he's grown stronger. Jiang asks if he had only bet his life to force him to go all out and to find himself a worthy opponent, but Wushuang doesn't answer him and states that he'll go take a nap while Jiang handles the last beast. Confused, Jiang asks him if he's giving him first place, but Wushuang explains that that is not his intention, but he's just really tired and needs to sleep. As Wushuang walks away, he shouts at Wushuang to stop pretending because he'll not succumb to pride and not take everything that's available, but Wushuang only smiles and thinks to himself that this person is really a worthy opponent. Meanwhile, Gu reasons that not using strength to bully the weak is what it means to be Wudi's descendant, and Wushuang's actions impress him. Next to him, Guang tries to resuscitate Cheng Yuan, who has been poisoned again after trying to teleport into the vine shield, but Gu soon instructs Guang to send the 10th beast to Jiang to let him win the championship. Sometime later, Hongyao arrives at the number 0 ruins, and she believes that no one below 6th transfer could even enter this nightmarish place. She is Nian Hongyao, the first disciple of the Heavenly Blade King and the senior to Ji Gang. As she walks past the dead spirits, she pledges to do this for the sake of her junior brother, Jiang. She begins to fight through the spirits until she finds a stone tablet that draws her attention. She wonders what kind of existence could leave an aura behind that's still strong after hundreds of years. When she gets closer, she sees writing on it that shows it's the ruins information database. So she activates her divine sense and begins to see information about ancient rare insects. She activates her full divine sense and does a quick scan until she finds the information about the 9-winged miasma, which the sheet says is an ancient cataclysmic creature, born in the extremely yin lands of the 9 hells, and once caused the great calamity of the 4th century and is now extinct. Apparently, its entire body is black-purple with 9 wings on its back. It carries a terrifying poison capable of transforming into a purple miasma. Its poison can corrode everything in the world, even mental spirits in space. When she reads that, she really confirms that her junior brother is really carrying a forbidden existence, and she needs to tell the master right away. Meanwhile, in the Tianzhou camp, Jiang easily devours the monster as usual, and his devouring value increases quite a bit. Once he gets the reward for being first in the examination, he plans to use it to perform his second transfer soon. 10 Qingyun flags are enough to get him first place, and he gives the ladies 1 each to help them get into the top 10. Meanwhile, Feng and Ying finally take down another monster, and they figure that Wushuang will definitely be first. Suddenly, moments before the exam ends, an announcement is made to order those who have promotion flags to gather at the square, while the rest are to leave the Tianjiao camp within 3 minutes or be killed. When Jiang hears that, he realizes that all the 10 ferocious beasts have been killed, so he sends his swarm to quickly find the remains of the beasts and eat as much as they can and avoid people as much as possible. Meanwhile, Beihan is seen on a stretcher, and he plots how he's going to get his grandfather to deal with Jiang when he returns to the Xiao family. At the square, Gu asks those who were promoted to come with him to the Forbidden Zone trial. People begin to murmur that these weren't mentioned before because the 8 Forbidden Zones of Huaxia are each lands of rare treasures but are extremely dangerous. While they're chattering, Gu considers the fact that Jiang is really carrying the forbidden 9-winged miasma, according to Hongyao's investigations. He immediately unleashes his heavenly blade, and he plans to prepare and take advantage of the timing before people come in the dawn. As the people watch in shock, he strikes the ground with his blade, moves the entire ground under them into the air, and directs the blade to the Jiangnan Yunmeng Marsh Forbidden Zone. They all watch in shock as he moves the entire camp to Yunmeng Marsh, and they realize only the Heavenly Blade King can pull this off. Meanwhile, Jiang asks the ladies what they know about the Yunmeng Marsh Forbidden Zone, and they don't seem to know much other than something that Hongqiu's grandfather told her once. Apparently, the danger level of Yunmeng Marsh is ranked last among the 8 forbidden zones of Huaxia. But what makes it truly terrifying isn't the hidden dangers, but the distortion of time and space. There are countless dimensional fragments, like interconnected bubbles, with space within them that is larger than the entire Earth. Because these fragments are always moving constantly, it's easy to get lost, and the time there is different from the outside world. It's said that a century ago, a regular person came to the Yunmeng Marsh with a determined mindset, and he became a 7th transfer-sealed king. According to him, 200 years had passed inside, but only 2 hours outside. Apparently her grandfather also explored there, and he was lost for 3 days inside, but 3 years had passed in the outside world, which means the risks and opportunities are random. However, Sun Dao is sure that the Heavenly Blade King would only lead them there because he has a safe route planned, and Jiang hopes she's right. To Jiang, this place seems to have great dangers and great opportunities, but he has a feeling that the senior Heavenly Blade King is doing this because of him. While they're moving, Gu reasons that Xiao Yunshuan will soon be able to find out about the 9-winged miasma if Hong Yao is able to detect it. When that happens, the entire Great Xia won't be able to keep it a secret, and he hopes that the Yunmeng Marsh will buy them enough time to find allies. The next morning, when parents and guardians arrive, they find the excavated ground, and they wonder if the Heavenly Blade really moved the entire camp, which is the elite of their entire Jiangnan War Zone's next generation, and they wonder if he's planning a rebellion. While they wonder where Commander Duan is, the commander rushes towards the scene of the incident after receiving a message from him that requires him to gamble his life. 2 minutes ago, Old Gu had sent a message to Duan to explain that he urgently needed to take the kids to the Forbidden Zone trial, and they'd return by the Tianjiao ranking selection day. He asked him to proceed as usual because he'd take responsibility for the consequences. He soon arrives at the camp, and he realizes Gu has left him with a huge mess to clean up. The commander approaches the people, who are gravely worried about their wards, but Duan tells them to quit worrying since Gu had said they'd be back by the selection day after the trial. But, in his mind, he really wonders if old Gu really needed to rush the geniuses to the Forbidden Zone like this, even if for the invincible prodigy he told him about, or if he's trying to hide or escape something. When he recalls the conversation he had with Gu, especially when he mentioned that the poison has its own consciousness, he suspects that it's the 9-winged miasma. Sometime later, Ji receives a message from his master that Jiang has something taboo, and it's such a serious matter that he's taken him to the Forbidden Zone to lay low for a while. He also asks him to try and find some allies among the sealed kings, because they might face a fierce battle when he returns. Shortly after, Ji laments to Tang Jin about how it'll be to protect Jiang, who had killed the prodigy from the Huang family and cut off Beihan's arm, apart from the fact that he's holding on to a taboo. Regardless, Tang assures him that they'll get through it, since he has made up his mind to protect Jiang. She encourages him to focus on the future, and mentions that she's spoken with her father, who is willing to stand with them. She reminds him that they have the Heavenly Blade King, senior sister Hong Yao, her father, and Commander Duan. With 4 sealed king powerhouses, they can handle any storms that come their way, so Ji is encouraged to meet the sealed King Mu family and the merchant Luo family to get more allies for Jiang. He prepares himself for anything and plans to use the same energy he used when he stormed into the Xiao family and go all out. Excited, Tang notes that she hasn't seen him so excited in years. Meanwhile, Senior Gu asks Hong Yao what she thinks they should do after they return. She comments that their junior brother's 9 miasma wings are so cool, and she wishes she could raise one herself, but Gu calls her silly and asks her to get serious. Surprised, she reminds him that Great Xia has 0 tolerance for taboos, and there's nothing she can do if he can't fix this. When she asks him if he can chop down Grand General Yuan Xuan with one strike, he lightly smacks her and tells her to watch her tone. From his perspective, he's ended up taking weirdos for disciples despite his great reputation. Hong Yao is always loud, rowdy, and never cares about anything, while Ji is stubborn and headstrong. Eventually, Hong Yao asks her master why he's so bent on protecting Jiang, and he recalls that he had randomly chosen her as a disciple because she wore red armor that he thought looked cheerful, and he chose Ji, who had mistaken him for an old customer outside a club. Back in the day, when the Xiao family heir went to forcefully marry Tang Jin, Ji Gang went to stop it, and Master Gu was ready to lay down his life to protect him. He wonders if he needs a reason for everything and states that he just does it because he cares. And it's the same for Jiang because he knew they'd get along the moment he met the boy. Jokingly, Hong Yao calls him the best teacher in the world because he acts so tough but is so protective, but he tells her to stop flattering him. Eventually, she mentions that the only way to protect Jiang is through Great Xia's high military commander, one of the 3 invincible supremes, and also Jiang Wushuang's grandfather, the martial god Jiang Xuanji, also known as Wudi. Meanwhile, at a place called the Pojin Cavern, Myriad Race's battlefield, Xuanji lands a punch on the ground that sends several men flying back. He's surprised that a group known as the Myriad Races dares to invade Great Xia, so he tells his men to kill them without mercy. He quickly tells his men to guard the entrance to the cavern, but he soon receives a telepathic message from Wu Shuang, who he knows should be busy at a prodigy camp right now. Soon after, Senior Gu appears, so Xuanji asks Gu if Wu Shuang got into trouble in the camp. However, Gu clarifies that his son is doing very well, but he wanted to make a deal with him, so Xuanji asks him to speak his mind. Gu immediately explains that he took in a disciple who is a divine-level creation type, but possesses the taboo 9 miasma wing, and he wants him to protect his life. Surprised, Xuanji reminds him that Great Xia has always believed in killing rather than letting those with taboos go free, and he asks him if he thinks he's all-powerful because he's the martial god. Surprised, Gu tells him he actually believes that, so Xuanji asks him to name his terms. Finally, Gu mentions the Hall of Taishu in Yunmeng Marsh, which only he knows the way to, and mentions that he can take Zhang Wushuang there to give him quite an eventful experience. The Hall of Taishu is the legendary treasure trove of the Heavenly Tao, and Wushuang's cultivation will advance greatly if he can go there. Eventually, Xuanji says he'll agree on the condition that Jiang is not allowed to use the 9 miasma wing during the Prodigy tournament, and he will throw him to the Myriad Race's battlefield to fend for himself if he can't take first place on Great Xia's overall Prodigy leaderboard. When Xuanji mentions that there's no other choice if Gu really wants to save his life, Senior Gu agrees, since sending him to the battlefield is still better than letting General Xiao and the rest kill him when they arrive. After Gu leaves, Xuanji reasons that it's impossible for the 9 miasma wing to reach a natural calamity scale in this era. Besides, Great Xia has produced other divine-level talents before Jiang that are not creation types. He's certain that he can't pass Wu Shuang in the test, or even take first place without using his taboo, but even if he ends up stirring trouble, he can wipe out any evil spirit in the world in seconds, since he's a martial god. Meanwhile, when the entire camp enters into a strange-looking place, Jiang asks the ladies if they've officially entered the Yunmeng Marsh. Hankyu is unsure because it's hard to know the way, but Senior Gu relies on Aura to lead the way. Apparently, the deeper they go into all the 10 layers of the marsh, the easier it is to get lost, and Hankyu mentions that her grandfather got lost in the 7th layer years ago. Since the path can't be remembered using eyes and the brain, Jiang suggests that they sit down to meditate so their spiritual sense can guide them, so they join him. While they meditate, Jiang notices the Tree of Origins drifting towards something even when there's no wind in his mind. He wonders if it's leading the way, or if there's something ahead that the tree is craving. Surprisingly, the tree suddenly bears fruit, and his system tells him that he's obtained the red function fruit, with the ability to copy one of the target's abilities and fuse it into himself. The copied ability has no class restrictions, and he has to complete the copy within 3 hours, or the card will expire. Shocked by the prospect of copying an ability with no class restrictions, he recalls that everyone in the camp is a top-tier prodigy, and he can pick anyone he wants. The most valuable targets would be Wushuang, Feng, and Tang Ying. However, since the copy ability is random, he worries that he might end up with some garbage skill. Having just 3 hours to make a decision, he wonders whether to just take a gamble. Suddenly, Gu announces to them that they've reached the 6th layer of Yunmeng Marsh, called the Taishu Realm, and the Hall of Taishu is up ahead. Suddenly, it occurs to our boy that he can copy one of the old master's characteristics, especially since he said he only knows one move. This way, he can copy the skill and consider it an early lesson. They soon reach Taishu Hall, and the kids are excited. Apparently, there was a legendary Sealed King in the Demon City who ascended to Sealed King in this hall, and one of the 3 invincibles of the Great Xia, called the Great Dreamer, attained enlightenment here. Gu informs them that there are 3 trials in Taishu Hall. The first is to climb 1,008 steps, with a chance to receive a reward of Heavenly Tao on each step. The second is the Taishu Monument, and Gu admits that only the Great Dreamer has reached this point. As for the third trial, which is inside the Taishu Hall, no one has ever reached it. However, they will only be doing the first trial. From the 150 participants, the top 10, based on the number of steps climbed, will be selected to represent the Jiangnan Zone and enter the grand finals of the Great Xia's 8 War Zones Tianjiao competition. Immediately, Gu announces that they begin the trial, and the kids eagerly rush up the stairs. As Sandao rushes there, Zhang drags her back and asks her why she is rushing when the Taishu Hall is not running away. He shows them the top students, who are not rushing there but are preparing themselves. When they see that, they decide to meditate with him since they only have one shot to do this right. When Gu notices those who are meditating calmly, he is slightly impressed. In truth, Zhang is using the excuse of preparing himself to replicate the heaven-splitting blade move so that the card does not expire, and he hopes the old master did not lie about knowing only one move. When our boy selects Gu, the system reminds him that there is a chance that an ability will be downgraded or upgraded during the duplication process, and Jiang accepts the terms. He does not care if the ability is not upgraded, but he hopes it is not downgraded. When the duplication begins, he confirms that Gu was not lying. As the process continues, he sees a vision of himself training until he reaches a point where he has been training for 10 years, then 20 years, then 40. And then he finally achieves the heaven-splitting blade. When he finally gets it, he cleaves the ground with one strike of his blade. Apparently, man models himself after the earth models itself after heaven, but heaven models itself after Tao. When the copying process is completed, the system congratulates him for receiving about 4 different skills, and Zhang is very excited that he was able to split the heaven-splitting blade into 4 different forms. A while later, Hongyao notifies the master that Wu Shuang has begun to ascend the steps, but only Zhang is left. She becomes worried that Zhang is asleep, and Gu also becomes concerned that it does not take this long to adjust one's state. Suddenly, Hongyao notices that her sword heart is resonating, and it surprises Master Gu that even his sword heart is resonating. She immediately asks Gu if this could mean that Brother Jigang was successful in finally breaking down the heaven-splitting blade into 4 moves like he said. Apparently, Ji's stubbornness had kept him stuck at the 3rd transfer Grandmaster level for so many years, and Hongyao wonders if he is finally enlightened. However, the master suspects that it might be from the brat, Jiang, because the aura that he experienced just now is familiar, but he soon convinces himself that it must be an illusion by the Taishu Hall. Suddenly, Jiang heads towards the steps, and Hongyao becomes nervous to know how many steps he can ascend. Years ago, she could only go up to the 301st step, while Ji only made it to the 298th step. At this point, Wu Shuang is on his 289th step, Feng is on 250 steps, Ying is on her 248th step, Zhe is on his 211th step, Han Qiu is on 199 steps, and Sandao is on 170 steps. As Zhang makes his way up, some students lament about not having the chance to properly prepare for the Taishu Hall. The first 100 steps are illusion steps. Then it gets hard with gravity as each step feels like carrying several mountains. While they argue, Zhang walks past them to begin the illusion test, which he believes should not be a problem due to his good mental spirit. When he gets there, he is shocked to see Xiaoyan Xuan, who threatens to kill him for touching his grandson. As Yuan Xuan slashes with his sword to destroy him, Zhang quickly blocks with his poison mist, but he gets knocked backward and realizes his insects could not block it. Eventually, the folks from the Night Watch show up to help him block it and ask him to move forward, but Yuan Xuan slices them all with one move, which causes Zhang to scream in horror. In reality, Hongyao is shocked to see Zhang stuck on the first step, with tears streaming down his eyes. Her master clarifies that the first phase of steps tests the mental spirit, physique, agility, and strength, but all the geniuses in the camp have been tempered with rare materials and treasures since they were young, except Zhang, who has always relied on himself. It seems that Zhang will suffer in this trial, and Hongyao becomes afraid that he will get sent to the battlefield, just like the master agrees with the martial god. In Zhang's vision, he begs Yuan Xuan to kill him because he does not want to live anymore after causing everyone's death. When the Tree of Origins causes Yuan Xuan to fade away, Zhang is shocked to realize he is in an illusion. He is shocked because it felt so real, but he eventually comes back to his senses. Suddenly, the system congratulates our boy for receiving 5 Star Wish fragments. Apparently, 1,000 fragments can be combined to form 1 complete Star Origin. 10 Star Origins can increase a skill between levels 1 and 3, while 100 is required for skills between levels 4 and 6. Zhang is shocked because a single fragment is worth tens of millions in the market, and such rewards seem so generous at the start of the trial. It's also a good thing because he can sell each fragment to be able to feed his swarm for a while. While he climbs higher, he wonders why the illusion hasn't attacked him again in the second step. But when he sees the Tree of Origins, he excitedly realizes that the tree has blocked the illusion completely. When Zhang begins to laugh excitedly, the others wonder why his expression suddenly changed, and suppose that he's about to get kicked out of the stage. Zhang overhears them and promises to show them how he'll casually crush the entire trial. When he looks up, he realizes that Wu Shuang is almost at the 300th step already, and he needs to surpass him. When Zhang hesitates, Hongyao supposes that her junior brother is stuck again and may not be able to even surpass the 10th stage. Suddenly, Zhang begins to jump from step to step and starts singing happily. The others almost choke from the shock of watching him playfully sing till he reaches the 100th stage, and they wonder if he got stuck in the first stage intentionally because he liked those stages. As Zhang jumps past the ladies, he playfully sings to assure them that he believes his sisters will reach the 100th stage, which really motivates Han Qiu to want to risk her life to meet his expectations. Shocked, Hongyao asks her master if the Hall of Taishu's assessment is malfunctioning because Jiang has reached the 200th stage and is not slowing down at all, but even Master Gu admits to never having seen this before. As Jiang jumps past some other geniuses, they wonder if Jiang is really experiencing the same trials they're in. Suddenly, Jiang comes closer and finds the 3 top geniuses stuck at the 299th stage. Meanwhile, the master and Hongyao realize that every stage after the 300th is a major hurdle, and is even hard for prodigies, because every step after feels as heavy as a mountain. When the 3 top students notice Jiang behind them, Wu Shuang and Ying commend his ability to catch up, but Feng doesn't say anything. Eventually, Wushuang informs them he'll take the lead now. Suddenly, Zhang's divine rank spirit nurturer talent begins to resonate with Wushuang, so Zhang wonders if he's also divine rank. When some chains appear around Wushuang, Zhang wonders if the chains are to suppress his strength. Suddenly the chains shatter and Wushuang takes his next step. When a purple aura develops around Wushuang, Feng wonders if this aura is the reward for reaching the 300th stage, and Ying seems pretty impressed. Eventually, Wushuang explains to them that the steps after the 300th are considered extreme. Although this new stage seems to be testing willpower, it's in truth testing the strength of one's soul. Wushuang tries to counsel Jiang to proceed with caution because he didn't come from a good background like this, and didn't have the luxury of being bathed in rare treasures and a good foundation. But while he's talking, Jiang casually steps onto the 300th stage. He soon turns to Wushuang and asks him if he was messing with him because this isn't that hard. For the first time, a look of shock develops on Wushuang's face. Suddenly, Jiang's system rewards him with an origin crystal for passing the 300th assessment stage. That's an insanely good reward. And Jiang reasons that he can give this to Uncle Ji since he heard he's been stuck in the third awakening for years. While Jiang is thinking, Little Nine excitedly tells him to keep climbing because they want to eat. When he looks up, he finds a slab on the top of the steps known as a stele, and realizes that Little Nine wants to eat that. He continues to climb, but eventually, Little Nine pushes him up forcefully across several stages, much to the shock of the three top prodigies. Their mouths open wide as they watch Jiang go up, and Wushuang begins to rush up the steps after changing his form, determined not to let Jiang surpass him. As Feng watches Wushuang, he realizes Wushuang has mastered his war god body, and anger wells up inside of him that makes him want to kill both guys that went before him. He activates his god demon blood power and goes hard after them while Ying watches them. Those behind the three prodigies wonder if the others have gone crazy and hope Ying isn't also some kind of freak. Ying assures them she's fine and just an assassin, but an odd air soon develops around her, and she turns into a snake, blasting across the stages and leaving the two guys confused. Shocked, the two guys comfort themselves about how hard the world is. Meanwhile, Hongyao is completely shocked by everything that's going on, but the master heartily laughs that it's expected of the disciple he picked. Jiang is just one stage away from the top and about to become the second person in history to do so. Seconds later, he successfully reaches the top and dispatches his swarm to take whatever they want. The swarm surrounds the Taishu stele, and Hongyao wonders what he's trying to do. She recalls that the Taishu stele is quite mysterious, and the invincible dreamer has used it for enlightenment. Right before her eyes, the Taishu stele disappears, and she wonders where it went. The master is equally shocked that he absorbed the stele for himself and wonders how he did that. Wushuang soon reaches the top and realizes he's lost but plans to go all out when they compete in the Great Xia Prodigy ranking. When Wushuang turns back, the others decide to retreat, since going any further can kill them and hurt their essence. Meanwhile, the ladies watch Jiang in awe, and Hankyu is glad that they've also been able to complete their mission. Jiang reached 1,008 steps. Wushuang reached 623 steps. Feng reached 609 steps. Ying reached 600. Lei and Liu reached 304, while the two ladies reached 300. The master realizes that these kids probably wouldn't have made it this far if not for Jiang, and Hongyao agrees that the new generation is much stronger than they were. Soon after, Hongyao notices that Jiang isn't coming down from the top and is standing there in a daze. Meanwhile, Jiang is notified that Little Nine has been upgraded to level 25, and their devouring value has skyrocketed, which means they'll be able to breed a third generation soon. However, when he notices that Little Nine brought back the stele to the nest and is clinging to it, he wonders if the 9 miasma wing and the stele are connected in some way. Suddenly, his insect system informs him that the Taishu stele was originally an abyssal anchor stone, located at the bottom of the abyss, a companion artifact, and one of the abyss's core essences. It suddenly makes sense that Little Nine is clinging to it since she's the ruler of the abyss. While Jiang is thinking about it, his system informs him he's become the Taishu realm master. No matter where he is, with a single thought, he can teleport back to the Taishu realm at any time, and no one except the master can open the gates of the Taishu hall. It seems the stele is the key to the hall, and Jiang is absolutely stunned, but he decides not to enter the hall now since many eyes are watching and decides to check it out later. While Jiang jumps down, Master Gu and Hongyao apprehend him to speak privately. Some other students who notice that believe it serves Jiang right for acting so cocky. When they're alone, Master Gu mentions that one of the Great Xia's 3 invincible figures, the Dreamer, could only observe the Taishu stele for enlightenment, so he asks him how he used the 9 miasma wing to absorb the Taishu stele. Shocked that the master already knows about the 9 miasma wing, Jiang wonders if the master summoned him here to kill him. When they notice his silence, the master jokingly asks him if he really thought he could fool everyone by portraying the 9 miasma wing as poison, and Hongyao laughs at the look on his face. Eventually, Jiang realizes they don't want to kill him, so he explains that the 9 miasma and the Taishu stele both come from the abyss, and the Taishu stele originally belonged to the 9 miasma wing. Immediately, the master informs him he only has two options because of the stance of Great Xia on taboo. Either he stays in the Yunmeng swamp forever and lives as an exile, or he comes back to fight for his survival, even though those of the general level or invincible level will want him dead. Suddenly, Jiang confirms his suspicions that the master brought him here to give him a way out. While he wonders why the master is treating him this way, Hong Yao tells him to answer the questions. So Jiang replies that he's only killed bad people with his power, and he's done nothing wrong. He explains that he won't run since he has a clear conscience, and the master laughs heartily that this is expected of the disciple he's chosen. When Master Gu mentions Ji, Jiang wonders what Ji has to do with this, so Hong Yao informs him that she's his senior sister and Ji is his second senior brother. Apparently, Ji nearly got killed by General Xiao when he stormed the Xiao family to steal Aunt Tang, and Master Gu had told him to hold his ground, but he didn't want to drag the master into this, so he was eventually exiled to Chujiang City. However, Master Gu assures Jiang that it doesn't matter who comes at them, because they can face them as master and disciple as long as his will is firm. When Master Gu assures him that he will carve a path for him with his blade, Jiang quickly bows to his new master. Meanwhile, Jiangnan's titled kings gather for a meeting, and Duan announces to them that Jiang Chen's poisonous mist is indeed the 9 miasma wing, according to their investigations. According to Great Xia's law, anyone who awakens a taboo class or uses such an object will be killed without mercy, so Duan asks them what they think. Soon after, Mu Hanqiu's grandfather, Mu Henian, responds that he doesn't believe the 9 miasma can cause as much destruction in this present day as it did in the olden days, and he suggests it's enough to put the kid under supervision. At worst, he suggests they destroy the 9 miasma wing but spare the kid. After that, Tang Jin's father, Tang Wanchuan, expresses that he agrees with Henian because Great Xia was quite weak when this law was given, and they can approach taboo matters with more flexibility. When he's done speaking, some of the other kings begin to accuse the two men of siding with Jiang because their daughters are involved with him. While they're arguing, Xiao Yunshuan steps in and states the kid must be killed on sight, and anyone who dares speak for Jiang would answer to his sword. When Duan sees the general, he realizes he may not be able to help old Gu anymore, and he hopes that Gu doesn't drag himself down. Sometime later, at the Tianjiao camp, Duan informs the Night Watch that General Xiao has deployed the Heavenly Punishment Squad, who are all hidden in the mountains nearby. Ji immediately plans to draw blades along with Tang Jin to settle old scores with the Xiao family if a fight breaks out, and he hands over the Night Watch to Duan, who pleads that he hands it over to someone else since he had also helped him cause trouble in the issue of the wedding. The other members of the Night Watch also refuse to miss out on the fun, but they soon notice Jiang and the others coming from a distance. Yuan Xuan and his squad also notice them and quickly tell them to prepare to fight. When Hong Yao notices the squad preparing to fight them, she recalls how she didn't get to fight enough back when Hong Yao stormed the wedding, but the master warns her to at least try to put on a show of diplomacy before they start fighting. However, Hong Yao jokingly reminds the master she's simply following in his footsteps, and she notices that Jiang has spaced out again. Actually, he's breeding his third generation and was able to make 5 million new insects and upgrade Little Nine to level 27. At this point, he has 5.11 million insects, and Jiang is certain the general won't have an easy time fighting them. As Hong Yao tries to assure Jiang not to be afraid, he assures her he's not, and informs her that he wants to go give Uncle Ji and the others a gift first. After she permits him, he excitedly goes to meet them. When he gets there, Jiang excitedly gives Ji an origin crystal, which is better than the epic gear he promised him, and Ji realizes this is as good as having the key to reaching the 7th awakening. Jiang also gives Aunt Tang a scarf that he thought would match her style and gives Brother Duan a Sunchaser bow he took from Yang Chao. He also gives Bulong a dark gold grade weapon for him and gives Xiaoqi a platinum grade set that looks like a bikini. Meanwhile, Yuan Xuan spots Jiang and tells the squad to await his orders. Suddenly, Duan notifies the general that there are more than 100 prodigies from the camp still with Gu, and they can't afford any mishaps. Yuan Xuan agrees but states that he'll kill Gu too if he doesn't know what's good for him. Eventually, Commander Duan has to step forward to ask old Gu to hand over Jiang to him. Although Duan doesn't want to be in such a position, he realizes that their Jiangnan zone will suffer heavy losses if they let this develop into a fight. However, Gu assures him that he has brought back all 150 prodigies from the Jiangnan war zone and even took them through the Hall of Taishu. When the titled kings hear that, they're glad that their children will be able to make them proud for enjoying the experience of going to the Hall of Taishu. With such a great favor, they decide to repay by not siding with the Xiao family either, even though they may not be able to protect Jiang Chen. Duan agrees with them, but while they're chatting, General Yuan Xuan splits the nearby river into 2 halves and tells everyone to shut up. He states that Jiang must die for possessing a taboo by Great Xia law, and states that Gu is going against the law by protecting him and by sealing off all the prodigy camp examiners by gambling their lives and taking them into danger. Meanwhile, the titled kings fearfully watch as the general walks on the sea and reverses the power of the heavens, and they decide to stay neutral. Immediately, Gu tells Jiang to return back to him and orders Hong Yao to handle the prodigy camp's flight. Zhang immediately leaves his friends and sets up a barrier around them, which they didn't notice he had even set up, and asks them to only enjoy the show. He proposes that they can only save him if he really can't handle the fight. When Master Gu draws his sword, Xiao Yuanxuan asks him if he really plans to draw his blade on him, but Gu points out that the general is an 8th awakening powerhouse with dozens of water element forbidden spells, and he has nothing to be afraid of with a man with just one blade. The general quickly creates an ice barrier, but Duan asks the both of them to calm down because the Prodigy camp and the Jiangnan base next to it will be destroyed. While he pleads with them to consider the people, Xiao Beihan comes out of nowhere and suggests that they settle this with a 1 versus 1 life and death duel, and he plans to end Jiang today for taking his arm back then. Immediately, Jiang proposes to the men that they let the young ones settle their grudges and not interfere. However, Jiang senses that there's a catch in Beihan's proposal, and Beihan gladly states that the condition is that he's not allowed to use the 9 miasma wing. Excited, Yuanxuan agrees with him and says no one should object, but Gu calls it nonsense, stating that they can't do what they want just because they stand on moral high ground. He angrily calls Yuanxuan a bastard and states that he's wanted to cut him down for a long time, so he proposes that they face each other and leave the kids if he has the guts. Surprised, Jiang is the one that has to hold back the master this time to retain sanity. He assures Master Gu that he has a way of dealing with Beihan without using taboo, and Master Gu wonders what he's talking about. Zhang reminds the master that he had said he'd teach him the heaven-splitting blade, so he proposes he teach him now, but Gu thinks he's out of his mind. Hong Yao is more furious, as she states that it took her 10 years to get the hang of it and Ji is still at the basics. When Beihan laughs that he can't wait 10 years, Jiang assures him he'll only need to wait 5 minutes. Shocked by his statement, Master Gu calls Jiang a brat and asks him if he thinks the heaven-splitting blade is a low-level technique. However, Jiang grabs the master's blade and asks him to trust him. To Gu's shock, the blade begins to resonate, and he seems to realize that the blade had also resonated back in the hall of Taishu. Eventually, Jiang whispers into his master's ear to explain why the blade is resonating with him, so Gu reluctantly agrees to teach him right now. Immediately, Commander Duan proceeds to construct a battle arena since it's a life-and-death duel to prevent others from interfering. Amused, Beihan asks Jiang to learn quickly and assures him that he'll make sure everyone sees how he kills him without the help of his taboo. Angered, Ji tells Beihan to go screw himself and asks the master why he even agreed to all this. He blames himself for letting Jiang join the camp, but Jin assures him that the old master wouldn't make a reckless decision. Meanwhile, Master Gu explains to Jiang that he needs to know that the heaven-splitting blade is a blade of willpower. He has to break his attachments, overcome life and death, understand his true self, and act without hesitation. After asking him to watch closely, he gives a demonstration of a strike, and Yuanxuan, who is unsure if this strike is aimed at him, activates all his defenses. Duan also worries why Gu is breaking the rules and interfering in the 1 versus 1, but when the strike goes past General Yuanxuan, they realize it's not aimed at him. The strike tears through a barrier of space and hits a nearby dragon, slicing off its tail. As the barrier closes, the popularly known black dragon that was hiding nearby threatens to come back to kill Gu. It seemed that everyone's attention was on the duel and only Gu noticed, but Gu supposes that the dragon must have been after the 9 miasma wing. Shocked by the demonstration, Yuanxuan realizes Gu has some skills. Meanwhile, Gu asks Jiang if the first time seeing his master use his blade was cool, and our boy excitedly agrees. When Gu asks him if he was able to learn the skill, Jiang uses the Tree of Origins to reach for Ji's sword. When he retrieves the blade, Master Gu asks him why he doesn't just use his own blade, but Jiang assures him he'll understand in a moment. Jiang doesn't give a demonstration and quickly goes to meet Beihan, but he assures his master that his own demonstration of the sword will also be cool. Shocked, Hong Yao is certain the master is sending Jiang off to his death, so she proceeds to get her junior brother out of there, especially since martial god Xuanji didn't show up to help them like he said. However, she's unable to enter the battlefield, so the master tells her that only the 2 fighters can enter the life and death arena due to the barrier. He also informs her that Xuanji, the martial god, has arrived and is in the void, but is not revealing himself yet. When she hears that, she freezes out of fear because she had just spoken ill of him. On the battlefield, Beihan enjoys a hearty laugh and asks Jiang if his entire group is crazy, especially because Jiang must think the heaven-splitting blade is a garbage skill that can be mastered by looking once. However, Jiang assures him he'll find out soon. Annoyed by our boy's pretentious crap, the young master gets ready and hopes to see how he intends to fight him without the 9 miasma wing. Meanwhile, Feng asks Wushuang who he thinks will win, and he responds that Jiang can win if he uses his 9 miasma wing but will certainly die if he doesn't, especially because Beihan has rebuilt his martial heart after setbacks and is even stronger than before. More so, the sword in Beihan's hand, called the Moon Soul, is ranked 20th on Great Sia's divine weapon list. On the battlefield, Beihan allows Jiang to have the first move, to watch his broken blade fall under the Moon Soul's power. However, Jiang tells him to stop with the nonsense and raises his sword, signaling to Master Gu to watch his disciple's blade and to correct him if he's wrong. He immediately uses the heaven-splitting blade strike, employing the Blade of Humanity form and a blinding purple light fills the whole place. The light is so piercing that the other students have to cover their eyes because it hurts, and Hong Yao immediately comes to warn those with weaker souls to cover their eyes. She and the master are equally shocked that the little brat was able to learn it after all, even though this particular strike only targets the soul and consciousness. Meanwhile, Bei Han, who seems completely unfazed, makes fun of Jiang because his skills are lacking. He clarifies that there's no point in attacking just the soul because the Xiao family is renowned for having the strongest souls. Immediately, the young master proceeds to use his sword in a move known as the Star and Moon Slash. However, Jiang isn't surprised, and he signals to Uncle Ji that the first move he did was called the Blade of Humanity. He quickly prepares to counter Bei Han's attack with a second attack that doesn't target the soul, but the physical form. The attack is known as the Blade of Earth, and it easily shatters the energy from Bei Han's Star and Moon Slash, knocking him backward as he dazingly wonders how Jiang is able to do that. The strike knocks Bei Han backwards by a few feet, but he manages to stabilize himself. Meanwhile, Commander Duan becomes tense when he notices the life and death arena is about to explode, and he wonders how a second awakening cultivator can do that. While he reinforces it with ice, Bei Han realizes he must block the onslaught of the Blade of Earth. Otherwise, he'd die. In the tumult, he uses a forbidden spell called the Ultimate Arcane Art that pulls the sword out of the hands of the other prodigies standing nearby, and he directs them all at Jiang. Tense, Commander Duan realizes these two brats have gone insane, so he orders someone to get a few ice cultivators here so the arena doesn't collapse. In a frenzy, Bei Han laughs at Jiang because he's lost and reminds him that he's nothing without the taboo, even though he's divine rank. As he hopes that his forbidden spell will tear our boy to pieces, Jiang asks him how he knows he doesn't have a backup plan. As the swords are about to hit Jiang, he uses the third form, known as the Heaven's Blade Slash of Karma, and lets out such a destructive energy that tears Bei Han limb from limb while he screams that this should not be possible. In a moment, Bei Han is eradicated, and his grandfather watches in absolute shock. Meanwhile, Ji watches all of Jiang's display, and he realizes the boy is achieving the dream he left unfinished years ago. Hong Yao, on the other hand, can't wrap her head around how her junior brother learned it in 5 minutes. The master is intrigued that Jiang is able to learn it even though his energy wasn't enough, and that he upgraded it the way Ji wanted to but couldn't. Meanwhile, the three top prodigies watch in absolute shock, and they realize this may be the strongest person they encountered among their peers. Sandao and Hangqiu also cry tears of joy that Jiang won. While this is happening, the invincible sword god, Ji Lingqiu, mentions that Gu's disciple is quite interesting, so he suggests they don't kill him yet, so he can help sharpen the other prodigies. Xuanji agrees that he wasn't planning on killing him at this time anyway, but Lingqiu reminds him that Yuanshuan won't let this slide easily, even if they want to let him go. When Yuanshuan senses Xuanji's pressuring aura, he asks him to retract his pressure and to not interfere because he must seek justice for his grandson, who just died a horrible death. However, Xuanji reminds him he's old enough to know that those who gamble must accept the consequences. Eventually, Yuanshuan calms down, but Jiang rushes towards him to demonstrate his fourth slash and impress Master Gu. Gu immediately tries to stop him from drawing his sword at the general, and Xuanji eventually admits that the child is foolish, and they have no chance of saving him. Yuanshuan is surprised that a mere second awakening that's as insignificant as an ant dares to draw his blade at him. But Jiang uses the method called the Blade of the Great Way that upholds justice and eradicates evil. The three top prodigies watch in abject shock since the strike is way too powerful and is comparable to a full-force blow from a 5 awakening Mountain Sea realm expert. But they figure it's a pity that he's throwing it away in a death wish. Meanwhile, General Yuanshuan tells the boy that even his master doesn't faze him, but a fresh-faced brat like him dares to challenge him. As Jiang's attack closes in on him, he easily blocks it with a flick of his finger, considering it a puny thing. However, when he looks around, he sees a myriad of 9 miasma wing around him. Jiang explains that he knows that the slash couldn't kill him, and they hadn't said he couldn't use taboo in this fight, so he surrounds the general with 100,000 9 miasma wing and commands them to explode. They all explode around the master, but he appears completely unaffected, so Jiang keeps causing more explosions until he's affected. As the explosions continue, Commander Duan and his men make a run for it. Meanwhile, Yuanshuan decides that this child must be eliminated, lest he becomes a disaster in the future. He immediately activates a curse of water skill called Blood Explosion. Jiang's blood suddenly starts to seep out of his body as it is controlled by Yuanshuan. Yuanshuan immediately commands his veins to contract, and blood begins to spew out of every hole in his body. Ji, who is watching the horrific scene, tries to smash through the barrier, while Hong Yao and Master Gu swing into action to save Jiang. Hangqiu and Sandao also jump in to save Jiang, but Hangqiu is pulled back by her grandfather, while Sandao is pulled back by her dad, and they ask the ladies if they have a death wish. The ladies quickly ask their wards if they can't do anything to save Jiang, but Sandao's dad apologizes that they don't have anything, while Grandpa Henian explains that anyone cursed with blood explosion is as good as dead. They point out that Gu and his disciples have gone to save him, and they can only hope for the best. Meanwhile, Gu rushes at Yuanshuan and commands him to stop, and Hong Yao asks the old rascal to let go of her junior. However, Yuan Xuan asks them to sit back and enjoy the show as Jiang explodes soon. As they both attack him with the heavenly blade, Yuan Xuan blocks it with water shields, and he asks Gu if he really thinks he can strike him. Regardless, Gu keeps going to see how many strikes he can take, and Hong Yao joins him. Meanwhile, Jiang screams in pain as he rapidly loses blood, but Yuan Xuan laughs and asks the others to say goodbye. Eventually, he crushes him completely, and Jiang explodes in the air. As tears fall from his eyes, Ji screams in horror, and Hong Yao begins to cry too, as her master also watches nearby in shock. Dazed, the ladies believe this can't be happening and Jiang is messing with them, but Yuan Xuan's hearty laugh causes the situation to sink in. As Yuan Xuan rejoices that he got revenge for Beihan, Gu rushes towards him and determines to kill him even if it costs him his life. When Commander Duan realizes there will be more deaths today, he signals to the warrior god and pleads that he acts before these two cause more casualties. Immediately, Xuanji freezes Hong Yao and Gu in the air, and they consider changing the venue for this battle. However, a 9 miasma mist appears, and Jiang speaks out of it, stating that he and Yuan Xuan can fight here and now. Yuan Xuan is shocked, and everyone else is more shocked as Jiang manifests again out of the mist. When he reappears, he asks Yuan Xuan if he really thought he'd die that easily, and assures him he has more trump cards than he thinks. Yuan Xuan is certain that this is impossible because he saw the boy die with his own eyes, and the three top prodigies wonder if Jiang reincarnated. Meanwhile, the ladies hug each other and cry joyfully that Jiang was messing with them. Nearby, Bulong notices the scent of a dead spirit on Jiang, and realizes he must have used the Reaper's Order, the thing they got in the spirit village, to prevent death and danger of any magnitude. In the air, Jiang states that it's his turn since the general couldn't kill him. He releases all 5 million of his swarm, and Yuan Xuan realizes this is calamity level. Lingqiu realizes this number is absurd, and Xuanji wonders how someone who awakened recently got so many bugs. Meanwhile, Jiang declares to the general that he will destroy him today, even if it takes risking all of his 9 miasma wing. So he directs them all to tear him into pieces. As the general proceeds to activate another curse, he notices he can't move, which means the warrior god has locked his movements, but he doesn't know why. Even Han Qiu wonders why the warrior god is helping Jiang, but Mr. Luo clarifies that it's the same way we can kill people who owe us little money but treat well those who owe us a ridiculously large amount of money. Great Xia will kill normal taboo users, but for one that also knows the divine blade, and in such little time, it's normal for him to receive special treatment. It would seem that Jiang's decision to reveal his trump card wasn't cockiness, but an intentional gamble. While the 9 miasma explode around the general, he spitefully declares that they will all go to hell and won't be able to kill him so easily because he has a trump card. As the explosion continues, Yuan Xuan decides that he can break through Xuanji's hold if he gives it his all. He uses a hidden curse called Divine Might and breaks through to Jiang, whom he tries to immediately kill. Our boy is shocked that he was able to break through the warrior god's seal and his explosions. But before Yuan Xuan can reach Jiang, Yuan Xuan is pierced in the back with an arrow from Lingqiu, who tells him it's already over. Lingqiu warns that he'll chop his head off if he dares move an inch, and Jiang uses the opportunity to trigger his explosions again. As Yuan Xuan is caught in the explosions, he protests that they can't treat him like this because he's risked his life for this nation, killed beasts, stopped revolts, and defeated the ancient god church. As he declares that he's the pillar that supports Great Xia, the 9 swarm surrounds him and begins to eat up his flesh. With half of his body gone, Yuan Xuan asks Jiang if he'll really kill him, but Jiang tells him to stop asking stupid questions. Eventually, Yuan Xuan admits he was wrong and offers to compensate him if he spares his life. But when Jiang turns to the others for their opinion, they don't utter a word. Eventually, Yuan Xuan calls out to Xuanji to save him and even offers to go fight in the dungeons if that's what it takes. But Xuanji asks him if he pleads guilty to his crimes of corrupting forces and oppressing people as a major general. Yuan Xuan eagerly pleads guilty, and Xuanji states that he'll take away his property considering how he's indeed benefited the country and will cast him with a curse, then send him to the dungeons to fight as a vanguard until he dies. When asked if he accepts, Yuan Xuan accepts that over death, so Xuanji casts the curse on him. Jiang watches as Xuanji casts the curse that will make Yuan Xuan explode if he ever tries to escape, and he's shocked at the power of the 3 great gods of Great Xia. Soon after, Xuanji approaches Jiang and asks him if this judgment calms the rage within him. Quickly, Jiang agrees with the god's choice and states that he wasn't that mad. Xuanji commends his talent and humility, which gladdens Jiang's heart. Suddenly, Commander Duan notifies the warrior god that the poison Duan released will spread and cause pollution to the abyss, so Xuanji just snaps his hands and the entire atmosphere is purified in a moment. While that happens, Jiang watches the display of strength in shock. When that's done, Xuanji shows them all that they know he can control everything, so he gives them regulations to spread abroad. The martial god states that all who benefit the country are friends, but everyone, such as Yuan Xuan, who goes against the country, is a foe. When Xuanji considers Jiang's case, Mu Henian speaks humbly to the god that Jiang won't do anything to harm Great Xia, and he vouches for him personally with all he owns. Additionally, Tang Wangchuan, the leader of the Tang family, also vouches for Jiang. So does the Jiangnan army, the Jiangnan martial arts faction, as well as Mr. Luo. Meanwhile, Hong Yao wonders if Jiang attacked General Yuan Xuan, knowing all of this would happen. The master agrees and states that Jiang showing the full strength and good usage of his power is the best way to quell the fear everyone has of the 9 miasma wing. Unfortunately, all of his 9 miasma seem to have exploded during the fight, but Hong Yao is certain he'll be able to farm more. Since everyone expresses acceptance for Jiang, Xuanji decides to agree, but he reminds Jiang to know his place and use his powers well. Additionally, the martial god explains that the person that comes out as number 1 in the heaven rank that's to take place in 10 days among the prodigies will get plentiful resources and all privileges. That intrigues Jiang, but he recalls he can't use his 9 miasma wing during the heaven ranking tournament. He wonders if the martial god had said that to test how potent he is without the 9 miasma wing, but Jiang assures himself that he'll get a new parent bug whenever he completes a quest. Eventually, martial god Xuanji decides to clean up, so he summons Great Dreamer to come work. A portal opens and Great Dreamer, Zhuang Zilu, the commander of Great Xia and one of the 3 overpowered warriors of Great Xia, enters. It turns out to be a very young lady in pajamas who's looking quite tired. She laments that there are too many people and so many ranked 6-star awakened, which means the job is a bit too much. So Xuanji simply asks her to handle the memory regarding the 9 miasma wing for everyone below the rank of king, and promises her she can sleep for a year after this. The mention of sleeping for a year sounds great to her, so she snaps her fingers and employs a skill called dreaming of a butterfly. Suddenly, the prodigies begin to yawn and they all fall asleep. Meanwhile, Hong Yao asks her master why the martial god decided to wipe their memories. So he explains that it's to protect Jiang and delay a potential catastrophe, as Great Xia isn't very stable. That makes sense. But Hong Yao wonders why the Great Dreamer is also sealing Jiang's memory. So Zilu explains that she's not sealing his memories, but enhancing his soul to prevent long-range assassination by curses, because his soul foundation is weak. Suddenly, Zilu notices that Jiang is immune to her ability, and he's only pretending to be asleep. Meanwhile, Jiang sensed the energy wave that made people want to sleep, but didn't feel the effect because it was deflected by the Tree of Origins. Regardless, he decided to play along to help the Great Dreamer save face. While he's laying down, he hears little Nine weeping because her babies died in droves, so he begins to blame himself, but she soon becomes excited that she can make more babies since she's reached level 30. Eventually, Zilu asks Jiang to stop pretending because she knows he's awake. When he realizes he's been caught, he gets up and calls her sister. Surprised, Zilu boasts to Xuanji that Jiang called her sister, and he tells her it's nice, even though he doesn't understand how she's so girlish after 800 years. Zilu grabs Jiang's face and tells him she accepts him as her little brother. Since his soul is strong enough, she won't reinforce it, but she gives him a protective ring to block all mental, soul, and curse-based surveillance as a welcome gift. As she goes back to her home to sleep, she reminds him to visit her in his dreams. She soon goes out of sight, and Jiang wonders if he really just became her little brother, just because he called her sister. Meanwhile, Hong Yao considers rushing up to her to do the same, hoping it'd work. Before he leaves, Xuanji reminds Jiang of the Heaven's Chosen tournament in 10 days, and informs him that he'll prove himself worthy of national resources if he can come out first without using the 9 miasma wing. When Xuanji leaves, Ying's uncle suggests that Jiang marry Ying, who is the niece of his aunt Tang. However, Mr. Luo states that he's already on that queue and is willing to offer 20% shares as a dowry, but Mu Henian tells them to step back because Han Qiu is already carrying Jiang's child. Later that night, after Jiang manages to get everyone to leave, he decides to focus on Little Nine's reproduction and his second awakening. He activates his Divine Evolution Accelerated Reproduction, which lasts 1 hour, and Little Nine produces 5,009 miasma wings. After that, Jiang begins his second awakening. Once the system detects that Jiang meets the requirements for a transformation, it assigns a quest in the Magic City Sky Tower for him to clear the Sky Tower, defeat the boss on the 50th floor, and seize its sword with a limit of 1 day. Jiang decides to sell the equipment with him worth billions and convert it to beast blood to help him start raising the second generation of bugs, then head to the Magic City Tower and clear the Sky Tower. Suddenly, the Tree of All Things bears another fruit, and Jiang acquires the ability fruit called Void Eye that allows him to see through, probe, and mark abilities, ignoring stealth, illusions, and skill effects. Excited, he decides to give it a try and spots Ying through the wall, with her abilities displayed right next to her. The panel also explains that she's shy and anxious about her grandfather's arranged marriage and is unsure about how to approach her target. When he zooms closer to her phone, he sees that she's typing a letter to him, so he quickly decides to turn off the lights and pretend he's not there. The next day, our boy heads to the Magic City Warzone Sky Tower. Inside, folks talk about 1G Xuanyue, the pride of their Magic City Warzone, who has the highest record from half a year ago for clearing all the floors in the shortest time and topping the second transformation ladder speed record. Jiang overhears them talking about her and recognizes that she's the second-ranked genius in Great Xia and is more powerful than Wu Shuang. and he hopes to meet her when the Heaven's Chosen rankings come around. When it's his turn, he enters the Sky Tower and is taken to the first floor. He's told that the monster's strength will automatically adjust to the entrance level, and he sees some scary-looking monsters on that level. Using his Void Eye probe ability, he learns that the monsters are level 40 fallen elves. This is only the first floor, but the monster level is already high, and its combat rating isn't low. He fears that he'll start facing level 90 monsters at the 50th level, and he realizes it's no wonder that Ji Xuanyue could only clear up to the 40th level. However, no matter how tough, they're all food for his bugs, so Zhang releases the bugs to enjoy the buffet. When Little Nine excitedly pleads that she also wants to eat, Zhang assures her that he'll give her something tasty later. Somewhere else, a young man named Ying Zhan, the top talent of Great Xia, meditates in a cave. He's soon interrupted by his uncle named Fang, who brings the latest intel. However, Zhan clarifies that there's no need to show him intel about Wu Shuang and Ji Xuanyue, even though they're at god level since there's still a big difference between gods. Uncle Fang quickly clarifies that the information is about Gu Kaitan's new disciple, Jiang Chen, who is a god-level spirit trainer. Surprised, Zhan asks his uncle why he should care about a creation type, so his uncle informs him that he killed Xiao Beihan and also stood up to the National Guard and lived. Surprised, Zhan collects the paper and reads about all of Zhang's latest achievements, which he finds interesting. However, Zhan thinks it's a pity that Zhang won't be able to use his 9 miasma in the Tianjiao tournament, since it would make things a bit exciting. Meanwhile, Great Xia's second talent, Ji Xuanyue, does some practice and shoots some monsters with arrows.